All right, what is up, everybody? What's going on? I'd like to welcome everybody to the show. I am just getting back in. Yes, we are starting this thing up a little late, as usual. I stay on CP time. I got an excuse this time because I came in from out of town. And I underestimated how long it takes me to get my computer, get the camera and everything set back up because I took the camera with me when we left, and that shouldn't be playing in the background back there. That's weird. But all right, I'll fix that. Fix that during the intro. But shout out to Kevin Samuels. Build it while we fly it. Build it while we fly it. But let's go ahead, get ready to go. You can see that we are joined by Sage Talk Lee, the name of his show on the Lapeef Network. We will be joined by him. Going to be having an interesting conversation. So let's go ahead. Let's get ready to go. Let's get it.
Peace, folks. This is X from TPOT Media. Open your mind and wake your black ass up. You know what time it is. Hit that damn like button as you make your way in the door. Grab a seat, settle in, get ready. It's the Grown Man Hour with your host, my man, Bernard Riley.
All right. What's up, everybody? Once again, welcome back. Shout out to everybody in the building. Really quick before I bring up my special guest, shout out to the Early Bird Squad. Those of you that are making it bright and early before we even get things started, I do appreciate each and every one of you. Shout out to DeMac the Trucker. Shout out to Lil Meat. You need to change that name, Lil Meat. I don't like it. LB Crypto in the building says, let's go. Who's next to step into the arena and face the firing squad? 3-0 over the last month. I believe you're referring to guy who I respect, I still like him, Alan Obi, Mr. Let Go, and Amiri Brown. I believe Mr. Lee from the show on Lapeef Network, Sage Talk Lee, is more in alignment with a lot of things that we say on this channel. So I don't think he'll face the firing squad. I don't know. We'll see as things go on. But shout out to Omega Dreads Gaming Channel, Logan JJ, Uneducated Lame. Who do we have in here? Osman Diaz Fletcher. Shout out to you, snazzy individual, TD Hutch. And I'm just saying, and without further ado, let's bring up the special guest, Little Big Nate in the building. I see you down there. Little Big Nate, snazzy individuals, Bowdy Thug, Omega Dreads, trying not to forget nobody. All right. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring up the special guest. We got Lee. What is going on? Welcome to the show. And
thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. We tested it in the background before the show, and there was no feedback. Now there is some little feedback.
There is feedback. Let me drop. How about now?
Okay. Right now it is. Yep. It's wait. No. Yeah. It's still kind of there. It got a little better.
What are you hearing?
They're hearing like an echo. When I talk, they're hearing an echo of what I'm saying.
Okay. How about now?
Testing, 1 2 3, testing, 1 2 3. It got a little faint, but it's almost actually right now where it's at, we can deal with this. Let me know if right now, what y'all hearing right now, can y'all deal with this? Because I got on these headsets, so I think I can hear
Okay.
I could hear a spider crawling on the wall. But
Take
I
me
don't
off camera for a second. Let me go to
wait, hold
the
on. No, we might be 100% good. I want to hear from them. I want to hear from them in the
yeah.
chat room. Are we good right now? Let me know if we're good right now. Do y'all hear an echo when I'm talking? We got yes, yeah, we good. So I think we good. So I don't think you need to change nothing.
Okay. Good
So
enough.
we can keep it right here. So welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, all
Appreciate
right.
the invite.
Absolutely. I normally get the boring questions out of the way first, like your background and all of that, and how you how you ended up a part of the Lapeef network. But go ahead and start with your background and then lead up to how you became a part of
Sure.
the Lapeef network.
Well, I'm originally from New York, Harlem boy, pretty much. And when I grew up, it was during the late 60s and early 70s. So that was a big drug era in Harlem during that time.
Mm-hmm.
I went to school, college. I took engineering as my studies, structural engineering. And when I got out of college, I worked for a nuclear engineering company for about 5.5, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
After I left that was actually out of state in New York, and I transitioned to came back to New York, and that's when I got into finance. Initially, I went to St. John's University. They had a 1-year course in real estate investment and certification to get your license as an investor and investment advisor. So I took that course there, got my real estate license, started in real estate, and then in Black Monday, which most of you guys know from 1987, the market crashed. I lost a lot of money. I was
Uh-oh.
doing business with a lot of investors, so I transitioned. I was like, "Whoa!" I'm losing all this money. All my clients says, "Look, we had money tied up on Wall Street." So I said, "Well, that's the place I need to be." So a year later, I got a company to sponsor me. Went to Wall Street, became a financial advisor there, Wall Street broker. Spent about 18 years on Wall Street, 4 years with Wells Fargo. At Wells Fargo, I did institutional lending. At Wall Street, I did everything. I traded. I was an analyst for a time. Most of my clients were not people. In a sense, I traded with hedge funds and market managers and so forth, portfolio managers, the big boys. So I traded big portfolios. So that's my financial and career background in general. How I came to YouTube, actually, I started watching way back when, maybe 2017 or so, off and on, Angry Man and Obsidian. From Angry Man, I went to Obsidian, but I was teaching, so I didn't have that much time to really pay attention.
Okay.
But then in 2018, 2019, I started to listen to those two a lot more, and they kind of brought me into the whole Black Manosphere spectrum of YouTube. And then I got introduced to Kevin Samuels. I spoke on the Obsidian show once or twice. Kevin and I spoke to Kevin. Rest in peace, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of brought me in. And then 2 years later, most recently, I've been watching the Lapeef Network. And then in January or so, they had a show on charisma, influence, and power. And the conversation was very interesting. And they usually do like a call in at the end of the show where people
Mm-hmm.
could come in and voice their point of view. So I did that, and they were impressed with some of the things I had to say. I guess they liked my composure and whatnot. And then JR contacted me and said, "Hey, you know what? I'd like to offer you a spot if you're interested."
Mm.
So I wasn't really doing anything at the time. So I said, "You know what? Let me give it a shot."
Oh, sounds good. Now, just to be sure, you don't act. Do you actually have? Because I don't even know this for sure. I should know this, but do you even have your own actual YouTube channel, or you just only do the show over there?
I only do the Lapeef. I don't have I do
Okay.
have the channel set up, but I haven't really launched it per se.
Okay.
And simply because I'm still kind of feeling my way out in
Right.
this space. I don't know what my niche is going to be yet, and I'm just trying to get acclimated to the space in general.
Okay. All right. So good enough. Good enough. Good background. Good background. Like to get the background out the way. We got 109 people in here. Make sure y'all hit the like button as we get things started. Now let's go ahead and get into this topic now. Well, hold on, before we ease into that, you did end up doing a reaction video. Somebody actually you sent me an email and was like, "Hey, you know you on Lapeef?" I'm like, "What you mean I'm on Lapeef? I'm not on Lapeef." But then I figured out what they mean. Like, oh okay. Lee is over there doing a reaction video to one of my streams, and that stream actually, you know, stirred up a little controversy around
Yeah,
the space.
yeah, it did.
A lot of people reacted to it. A lot of people still talking about it. So let's start there as we segue into the topic, which is
Sure.
kind of connected, to that discussion. But what prompted you to do the reaction to my live stream, my discussion I had with Mr. Let Go? What prompted you to do a reaction to that one?
Well, for me, I think one of the things that I don't like that I see black men do a lot is that they try to take away accountability from women and treat them as though that they're these little fragile children that they need so much protection. I don't do that. And some of the things he was saying with regard to how women have made their choices and led in the black community, that as men, if we're going to come back and take some type of responsibility and leadership, we have to more or less just wipe the slate clean for them and give them a new start. And we need to absorb all of their faults. I don't think we should do that. I'm of a much different opinion. I believe in holding women accountable because they're responsible adults. They may not make decisions like we make decisions, and they may tend to make what some people may think as short-sighted decisions for immediate returns.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, you know, people are have to be left to their own ways on how they learn and grow once they become an adult. And so his perspective that black men should just take on women who have made the choice of free love, free sex. You can't tell me nothing. I have multiple children by different guys. You can come in here and now wife me up and take care of me because I made a lot of mistakes in my life. I think that's an irresponsible way. If you're a leader, that's an irresponsible way for you to lead, or at least to suggest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. You said something in that stream, and I was kicking myself because I forgot to say it. Because I told myself whenever somebody makes that argument that all the women are children or whatever, I said my next thing that I'm going to say to them. So I was going to ask, okay, so you do then support taking away their right to vote? Then I mean, you're saying they're children, so they shouldn't be voting. They shouldn't be running for major political seats and positions. They shouldn't be executives in major companies. So if somebody is going to make that argument that they're children, then okay, then you support taking all those rights and privileges that adults have away from them, right? They more than likely in that situation will say, no, we can't take away that. Okay, then don't make the argument that they're children then. But you did a good job at pointing that out, that about they have the right to vote, and they
Right.
can go to the military, everything. You did a good job at pointing that out, and I missed that point, so I had to give you kudos for catching that one right there. But and that sort of transitions us into the main topic, because in the backdrop of some of the conversations I've been having lately with a lot of people, it was three guests I recently had over the last couple weeks or few weeks, where in the backdrop of the discussion was their need, want, or desire of in some way, shape, or form of saving the community. I have my thoughts and views on the possibility or impossibility of that. Where are you at on that? This whole notion of saving a black community. What is your thoughts on the possibility or impossibility of that?
Well, I never like to think that something is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, especially if it's man-made, it can, and it's man-broken, it can be fixed by man. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my general perspective. However, when you're dealing with people, people are are the fly in the ointment. And we as a people, we lack cohesiveness. We lack a strong sense of self and unity. You know,
Hmm.
like when I grew up in the 60s and 70s, the Black Power mantra was very big and people were more cohesive in the Black community as a whole. We looked out for each other. That doesn't seem to exist today. It may exist in pockets of Black America, but in general, it does not exist predominantly. So my view with regard to the Black community, I think it needs to be scrapped. I think you need to start over, and you need to start with like-minded men who are looking to do the hard work, because building anything is difficult. And coming from an engineering background, the engineering I used to work in was nuclear. So I've worked in the field for 4 years. I know what it's like to build a facility on site.
Hmm.
And building a Black community would require much change from both women and men. And there would have to be a center core of very strong men who are leaders, who don't take shit and don't take the
Mm.
tears as women from women as being something implying that they're enabled.
Whew. So good stuff. When you say scrapped, all right, explain that one. Does what exactly do you mean when you say it needs to be scrapped? Because when we're talking about live bodies, human beings, they're not going nowhere. We're not going to Thanos snap nobody. They're still going to be
True,
there. So what do
true.
you mean by scrapped?
What I mean by scrapped is that, I mean, and brothers are doing it now, right? Brothers are kind of leaving. Those who have the financial wherewithal
Uh-huh.
are moving out of the community, finding different places to live. But what I would suggest is coming together, buying
Oh no,
land
that
in
was that was a little big Nate. You're preaching to the choir on some of this stuff. There's some people who definitely agree with you. Little big Nate's one, Nate
okay,
Dog
okay.
74. That's why he said, where have you heard that before? Because that's something, I don't know if you listen to him, but that's something that he what you said was exactly what he
That's
preaches over on his channel. So
okay.
yeah,
Likewise, not
yeah,
a
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
Well, definitely, I would like to see a group of men come together, form a corporation, buy, I don't know, 100,000 acres or more somewhere in the United States, and start over from scratch. There are investment companies on Wall Street and different places where if you have the right project, you can raise the money. Raising money was part of my business. I'm looking into doing some things, and maybe by October, November, through the Lapeef channel. And I have started a company called Black Alphas Group that I may probably look to launch something through there, because I think we have to start over, and we have to start over with like-minded men, of course. But in that community, women won't have those kind of rights like they have in the United States of America. And in a corporation have its own bylaws. So as a separate city, we can have our own rules within our city.
Mm. That's actually kind of different. Okay, this is one of my problems that I've always acknowledged when you're talking about a Black community. Like typically, a community, it's really just a group of people with different ideas. A lot of times they're spread all over the place. Like that's how it is with Black people. Typically, when Black people start doing better for themselves, they don't have to live in what we call the hood anymore, and then they go end up getting just sprinkled all around. Like, put it like this:
Well,
the type of Black people that you're talking about, they exist. They're just sprinkled around in all kind of other communities.
and
And go ahead.
no, I know you're right. They do exist, and some of them I've met in the past. So the thing is, why we're sprinkled about is because we're searching for a place where we can have as a base and a foundation where we can build, we can be safe with our families and children and wives. So that's why we're spread out all over, because there's no safe place in the hood where there's like an upscale neighborhood in Black America where you can live and be safe, because the hood can come to your door at any time. So that's part of the problem. That's why I said it would have to be a private community, because it would have to be gated and protected. We'll have our own security force, own hospitals, own schools, everything. We'll have to build a city complete. That's for us.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a lot. That's a lot talking about essentially building the city. But the interesting thing you said something about it being more like a corporation, and
Corporation.
a corporation could
Yes.
have its own rules. So that means that, like, can you actually do that to where, okay, a group of people are on a land, and on this particular land we're calling it a corporation, and then the corporation sets the rules of this corporation, but if those rules are governing, I guess, actions, behaviors, or arrangements between people, between men and women, can a corporation actually have that kind of power to, in its own way, uh supersede the law of the land? By land, I mean the whole damn land, and not just the reservation or
Well,
corporation.
it doesn't supersede the laws of the land. What it does is it isolates you from the laws of the land.
Hmm.
As long as you're a part of that corporation community, the laws of the land doesn't affect you because you operate first under the laws of that institution. And if you violate the laws of that institution, you will be prosecuted and punished under the laws of that institution. Now, if the corporation violates the laws of the land, then the laws of the land can come and prosecute the board members or those who operate the corporation. That's how that would be affected.
Right. See, and that's sort of where I was going with it, because I'm gonna mute you up for a second. That feedback sort of came back, but that's okay. I'll just mute you up for a second. The laws, if on that corporation, damn it, I just messed up. I lost my train of thought when I was trying to get rid of that feedback. It said if the corporation violates the laws of the land, but if the corporation is setting its own laws because it wants to be separate and apart from whatever laws of the land, then it seems like it is baked into the cake that is going to be violating. It's just we're within the little bubble, and don't take our business outside of this bubble. Is basically, like, basically everybody would have to be on code for it to keep the laws of the land out. That's what it seems like. Oh wait, oh, hold on, you're muted. You're muted. Let me unmute you.
Well, if you've incorporated your business, or if you've looked at any business that is a C corp has what's called bylaws. The
Okay.
bylaws of the corporation does not violate the laws of the United States, but
Mm-hmm.
the bylaws have to be voted by committee, and then once those laws are the operating uh, constitution of that corporation, anyone who comes into that corporation have to sign off on the bylaws. They have to agree to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way this would, I've been giving it some thoughts. The way it would be structured would be a patriarchy structure, meaning that the men would hold responsibility for their wives and children.
Mm-hmm.
The wives would not own property within the corporation. So the house that you own, you buy your property from the corporation. You have to adhere to the corporation rules, which means you must have control over your wife and over your children. If you violate the rules, and you violate multiple rules that would cause for you to be extricated from this corporation, the corporation would buy your property back at market value, and you would have 30 days to leave, and you can go back out into the world and be as ratchet as you want.
Mm. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. I like it. SKC in the building with a $2 super chat. He said, "So it all comes back to this clean slate." Yeah, SKC. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's one of the ones who says, as far as the community, he says, "Let it burn." That's what he says. As far as
Well,
the
I think,
community.
you
And,
know,
and real quick, SKC, I do want you to come up when I open it up. I do want to get your thoughts and your take on this. Hopefully, you got time today. But go ahead, Mr. Lee.
no, what I was going to say is that, if you've ever worked on a renovation project, most renovation project is a gutted project. I've lived in Harlem. I've seen many buildings get renovated. And usually when you do a renovation, it's a gut, meaning everything other than the walls, the floors, the beams, everything goes. The flooring goes, the walls, the finished walls are gone. Piping is gone, electrical is gone. Sometimes even the roof is taken off, and all you have is the truss and the beams and the studs, the bare wall, and then you go in and you drop everything brand new. That's the only way you can get a real good finished product. Other than that, if you're trying to splice together wiring, splice together plumbing, there are unknown issues that's going to constantly come up. And when we look at a community like the Black community, there are too many people that are fighting against itself.
Mm-hmm.
Men are fighting against itself to get the so-called rewards from women, which they're not going to get anyway, because if the woman wanted you, she would have chosen you, or she would have allowed you into her space. But men do that because, there's always a part of the society, even in the animal kingdom, that are not getting the better part of what that ecosystem, how it operates. So there'll always be men who will never have the benefits of women like other men will. And so those men are what we call simps. Those men are the enforcers that will go out and do what they think the women want or what they hear women say they want online. And then they go out and they bash and they try to corral or check other men and their behaviors to come in line with the women so they can say, see what I did? Now, what do you think about me? I'm a good leader. See that? That's what I did for you. That type of thing.
Yeah, we get a lot of that. We get a lot of that around here. Jackie Jack with the $5 super sticker. Do appreciate that. Thank you, everybody who support the stream. 194 people in the building. Make sure y'all hit the like button. And SKC just asked a question that he would ask. He says, would this black town that you speak of would it have white women's?
I would not tell a man what type of wife to have. If your wife will adhere to the rules, that's your wife. You need to check her. So the color of the woman is not an issue with me. It's the culture of America that is the problem. And Black people have the worst part of the American culture as a whole.
Mm-hmm. How much of it do you think, when you say Black people or the culture of America, is the problem? And you say Black people have the worst part of American culture. Do you think that it's more or less that Black people, they're in many ways like you could say, it's like a subculture, but in many ways, at times it feels more counterculture. So I don't even know if it's accurate to say the worst parts of American culture when they're practically counterculture to it, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying. The thing is that we take our cues from the larger white America, and then we interpret it into the Black community, how we function as a community. So sometimes that spin is a bit different, but usually what happens is that because most men frame everything through the women, they're always looking at somewhere, how can I use this to better my position with some women or with women in general in the community? And that's something that I see that a lot of our men, we do. We use the woman as a barometer to our actions when it should be the other way around, when you should be leading and setting standards, and the woman should look at you as the way in which how she should move. Men are doing it the reverse.
Good stuff. Sir Tice in the building with a $10 super chat. Excuse me. He says, love to hear Lee's thoughts on gentrification. We had a little discussion or debate about gentrification on the last show. Well, one of the previous shows. He said, love to hear Lee's thoughts on gentrification. Basically, how some say is predatory and only certain communities are targeted. I'm not referring to eminent domain, but just in general. What's your response to his question there?
Well, gentrification, I think, and using my engineering and architectural background, understanding how cities and societies are laid out, every 20 to 25 years or so, cities need to be upgraded because the society is changing, new generations are coming, new marketing products and so forth, new stores and so forth. The problem in the Black community is that we don't upgrade our own communities. We just know how to tear it down. So because of that, developers who see our communities where they're located, and I'm going to take New York since I know that very well. Harlem, when I worked on Wall Street, from door to door, from my house to my office, was 18 minutes by cab. That is prime territory for anyone from a business real estate development standpoint that want to improve and generate business in an area that is so close to midtown and downtown. Most white people and other people who have properties, they're in Westchester, they're on Long Island, they're in Yonkers, they're in Sussex County, they're in different parts of the city where it's 2 hours to get in. They got to cross several tolls and they got to come across a bridge and spend 2 hours on a bridge or on a turnpike just to get into the city. Whereas in New York City, everything is either walking distance or a 10-minute or 15-minute cab drive. So what happens is, because we don't develop our own communities, investors who are looking to make money will say, you know what? We can invest in this community. We'll sit down and have a meeting with the mayor and we'll pledge to put 600 million into this community. We're going to make some low income housing, but 90% of the properties are going to go at market rate. And then they're going to up the market rate because they need to recoup their costs, even though they're going to get a 10 to 20 year tax abatement, right? A JP 51 or something like that. So this is what happens to our communities. And then what happens is, because most of the people get priced out, we complain. But we complain because we're lackadaisical. We don't see opportunities for ourselves in our own community, and we don't trust each other to work together to build in our own community. If one person want to do a project, immediately people are going to be looking to tear it down, talk about how much money he's going to make. He's supposed to make money on the goddamn project. What do you think everybody else do? But for whatever reason, we're always counting the pockets of other men, black men particularly. So that's something that holds us back from progress.
Yeah, definitely. And we had the discussion about gentrification. I love the way you broke it down, because I've been trying to figure out why Black people view gentrification as just as big of a problem as they do. I couldn't make it make sense. I see it very similar to how you described it. And when I have people try to explain to me why it's so bad, why it's just the worst thing ever, but like you said, communities get rebuilt and refurbished all the time. It's just
upgraded.
Upgraded. I mean, it just happens to be the case that we're not the ones that are doing it. That's pretty much all it is. Pretty much all it is. I don't see that as a problem. They make it seem as if the people who, if everything in the community start costing more, if the rent goes up, they make it seem as if these people disappear. Like if they can't afford to live in this neighborhood, they'll move to another poorer neighborhood. That's generally how I looked at it. I don't think, unless somebody, I'm open to be proven wrong, unless somebody can say when gentrification happens, the people that were living in that neighborhood, if they literally end up out on the street and nowhere to go, if that's the case, then okay. But other than that, I've never saw a major problem with gentrification.
Well, I think the thing is that and I'm glad that I'm hearing a lot more of that conversation now. We never really saw ownership in America like that, because we never really bought properties in our community. We don't look at an abandoned building and see what it could be. We just see an abandoned building with grass growing everywhere and junk thrown in that property's yard, and drug addicts go in that building to shoot up. That's what we see. A white man or Arab man or even a Latin man would come and look at that block, and he could see a whole new apartment complex. He see a whole new stores, shops, and they'll get together and form a consortium, and then they'll come in and start buying. They'll plan for 5 years. They'll start buying up the block one by one, little by little. But you see, we don't do that. We don't see that, and we don't do that. We're very short-sighted as a people.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's go. Damn, I wanted to circle back to something you said. I forgot to write it down. Oh yeah, when you were talking about this community, for those that made it in late, you talked about buying out an amount of land. I don't know if you how much land did you were you talking about buying and start a community on?
I mean, I would say
hypothetically.
100,000 acres would be a nice place
Okay.
to start
Okay. 100,000
because you
acres.
you have to have room to build out, right? You're not going to
Yeah.
build on that all at once. You're going to build out phase one, phase two, phase three.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So 100,000 acres, make it a corporation. The people within there that live in there, they basically, they're bound by the bylaws of the corporation, and that's where the rules and regulations and laws, standard and
It'll be
governing
a
essentially.
matter of fact. You know where I got the idea from? I got it from Donald Trump.
Ha,
Yeah. Donald Trump was looking to buy a specific place and build a private city. I'm not going to tell you where, but I know where. And he had already gotten the approval to do it, but something went awry and it didn't happen. Not that it couldn't happen again in the future, but when I looked at the plans and the ideas of what he was looking to do, I was like, you know what, this makes perfect sense.
yeah. Okay. Over here we got a little some word we call a hopium, when somebody is just full of hope for something that seems unlikely or impossible. But I say nothing wrong with a little hopium, little spirit of just belief. What's your what do you project this being a possibility? Because I mean, you gave your background to where you sound like you're the man for the job. When I listen to your background, or at least as far as organizing or helping facilitate something like that, or possibly galvanizing, getting people together for that. Like what? So what's your I don't know, outside projected chances of actually pulling off something like that in your lifetime?
It can be done. At least the funding can be raised within the next 5 years. Construction can start before the end of 2020. The 2020
Yeah,
before 2030,
yeah,
you could break ground. It's
right
just a
on.
matter of will, whether you can have the right black men come together with the right fortitude, willing to do it, because the money is there. I mean, there's access. Black people got access to more than $13 trillion right now if they know how to access those funds.
Yeah, yeah.
But
You
let me just
probably
say this:
okay. Go
white
ahead.
people look at us like they look at African black people. That
Mm,
we need to be helped. So if you're helping somebody and you're giving them something for free, then you give them the extra, the leftovers. After you finish with your projects, then you might do something kind. But that is never going to be sufficient for what we would need to build. And I think we need, as a people, I mean, the reparations project is a good idea. But if you think your slave master is going to give you money to make you rich as them, you fool. Ain't going to happen. If I was your slave master, I wouldn't give you the money.
mm.
Someone bigger would have to make me do it. And I don't know who's bigger than the United States that can make America give you something to right what they did wrong. They're not going to do it.
So I guess you're not real big on black folks trying to get
Reparations.
reparations.
The energy we put in reparations, if we were to come together and learn to work together and get together with the right people in terms of men in business, we can address that a lot quicker.
All right, I gotta go ahead and deal with this elephant in the room. We don't get too many older gentlemen that speak the way you speak. They normally be on some other stuff, man. Where did you're very forward in your thinking. We be talking about a lot of the old guys. They come on here and they still want to hold hands and sing "We Shall Overcome" and all kind of stuff like that. So I do gotta acknowledge that it is wonderful to speak to you, and that you're past all that, and you're speaking you're speaking, I guess I would say, more along the lines with a lot of us younger, and I mean I'm 40, so I'm not that young, but more along the lines with a lot of us are thinking, but still with the wisdom of what an older person should have. So it is a breath of fresh air. I do got to acknowledge that. Um, sodomy and chicken. I hate that. Change that name. Change that name. One of those is good. The other is bad. Don't put them together. I don't like it. Okay. Sounds like these aren't really your community since you don't own much there. Someone just let you borrow them and now they need them back. That's a fair assessment. That's a fair assessment if you don't own the property and you don't own anything in the community. You can speak on that one really quick, but that's pretty much that's pretty much self-explanatory right there. But yeah. Um let's see. I'm looking at the chat. I'm looking. He doesn't appear to have the boomer disease.
No, I don't.
Yeah, man. Yeah, little big Nate. We like this one. We like this one. But no, definitely good stuff. There, I said it in the building with a $5 super chat. He says, in the black community, the females have too much agency, and the builders slash protectors have too little. This is why this space is so important. And there, I said it. You just segued me into the next portion of what I wanted to talk about. What I do want to talk about black male agency. I'll admit that before I got into these discussions online, I didn't know that it was people who were staunch down against it. You know, when I first started talking to somebody who used the title, you know, SYSBM, I was like, what the hell are you talking about? I didn't understand it. You know, passport bros. I was like, okay, yeah, passports. That's cool. Awesome. Yeah. I didn't know there was people who were staunch down against it. I did not know that there was people who was going to I did not know that there was I did not know that there was people who was, you know, adamant, passionate, just damn near fire and brimstone against black men just having agency, their own personal individual sovereignty to go do what they want. They want to put the ball and chain on the black man's foot in the name of saving a community like that, in which we just discussed earlier, just a few minutes ago, that a community that people we don't even own, nobody even owns any, none of us even owns any of the property. And I mean, I can say I own my house there, but you know, overall, we know the stats on it. Like, we're talking about saving a community. The people who are talking about that, are they even, you know, properly pushing for home ownership or whatever, you know? So that's a whole nother story. But so let's talk about that for black male agency and the people who seem to be more or less against it.
Well, when you say the people who are against it, give me more clarity on who those people might be. We're just talking black women, black men, outside of the black community. What are you actually referencing?
Well, I think it speaks to something you alluded to. Well, definitely black women, and I understand why they have a vested interest, and they don't want to see black men dating out. They don't want to see black men getting their passports, living abroad, or spending a lot of time abroad, or bringing back abroad from abroad over here. You know, they don't want to see all that. I understand they have a vested interest in not seeing that. But what I came to find out, that there's shockingly a large percentage of black men who are against that, who are completely 100% against black men doing that. And we've seen them online in these spaces arguing against black men, talking about, you know, their own agency and basically doing what their I would say their American freedom affords them to do. You know, they speak against that. So just what's your general thoughts on that? I was saying you alluded to it when you talk about how they, you know, follow or try to appease the black women, so to speak, to where I'm gonna argue on your behalf to try to get these, you know, get these guys back in line so they can be good little boys again. You know,
Get these
it's
renegades to get back in line, right?
yeah.
Well, you know, black men in general, we have not been in America, we have not been in any real powerful position in our life for the past couple of centuries since we've been here. We don't really know what it's like to conquer. We don't know what it's like to rule. And we don't understand what real power executed look like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hear a lot of people align themselves and like to talk about the Moors, but the Moors were conquerors. They left Africa, they took over Italy, and they tried to take over damn near half of Europe. those were other black men. They were conquerors. And I think that spirit somehow is raising up in men who at least have the affordability to travel. And travel is the best education. I've been
Mm-hmm.
traveling since 1998. I've been to Africa. I've been to France. I've been to Marrakesh, which is North Africa. Uh, and I've traveled throughout the United States as well. I've been to 6 countries in Central America. I haven't gone south yet. Maybe later this year I might decide to do that. But I think as men begin to travel and get their vision broadened outside of the teapot of America where we have been for so long, you get a different perspective on the world. Instead of being inside the test tube looking out, you are on the outside of the test tube looking in. The perspectives are different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as those men begin to broaden their sense of self and what are possibilities, guys, I hear women and some men talk about going to poor countries where people are walking barefooted.
Mm-hmm.
For me, when I come to a country and I see a country that have infrastructure development issues that are 20, 30 years behind the United States or more, what I see is investment opportunity because I have the perspective from America where I know what the future looks like if these countries were to move in a very similar direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's part of what some guys are starting to see already, and they're shaking off the shackles. And many people in America, black men particularly, they're afraid. I hear
Mm.
guys who I respect that have YouTube channels speak about how they're afraid to leave America. And if they were to leave America, they would only stay in the five-star hotel compound and would never venture out into the city. When I go to a new country, the first thing I do after I check in the next day, I get me a guide, I get me a taxi driver who knows the place, take me around, introduce me to where the real people hang out. And I think a lot of us are scared of that because America tells us how dangerous these countries may be. But you know what? People outside of America hear how dangerous black people are. That's the projection of black people outside of America, that we are a dangerous people. We're violent. We like to kill. We don't have no real culture. And these are things that you hear when you live outside of America. Now, on an individual basis, individual black men are respected outside of America. The mere fact, like I hear people say, if you got a blue passport, definitely if you're an American, people associate American people with having money. So whether you're black or white in Latin America, you're still known as a gringo. Period. Has nothing to do with you're an American, you're a gringo. So which means you
Mm.
have money. So they're going to try and get money from you. But the sooner you can get acclimated into the society, once they see you as like, oh, he's cool, they treat you different immediately.
Mm. Uh, RM, I see where you're posting the link. You're saying cam up in back. That's most of the people that are that come up are people I've talked to. You don't gotta. You can take that cam up and back. I know most of my people, so yeah, they don't gotta turn the camera on and back. Don't, yeah, move that. Take that out of the invite to come up. Take that out of the invite to come up. But the link is in the chat. Anybody wants to join this conversation? I did want to hear what SKC had on this one. I did want to hear what SKC had on this one. You've done quite a bit of are you married right now or no?
Me?
Yes.
No, I'm divorced.
Divorce.
25
Okay.
years.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just curious when you talking about traveling. I know if you was I don't know. I was curious for a specific for a specific reason, as far as traveling goes. I'm trying to remember what you said. I should have wrote it down. I was listening to one of your streams where you were talking about black men who want families or who want to get married, and you were just more or less alluding to the um
Well,
sort of.
I would
Go ahead.
I would say this, right? That in Black America, because the slave master remained in the country with us and kept us underfoot for so long, we associate that we are the only slaves. All of the Americas was in slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, Latin America was in slavery from the 15th century, 100 years before we were even brought to America. So, we have to get a broader understanding to understand the realities of the America. Most people that live in the East, they look at America as this whole region, North America, South America, Central America, and the Caribbean as one area. We look at America as just the United States. And the thing is, there are Black people all throughout this region. They speak the language of their former slave masters, whether it's Spanish or whether it's Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
But they look like us, they act like us, they behave like us. And once you get to know them, they're really not that different. Their culture is different because they do not have the past 200 years from the 1800s when they came out of slavery. Their colonial masters left and went back to their home. Our slave masters stayed and kept their foot on our necks. So we have suffered harder than they have, but they were in slavery as well. And I think once you start to travel outside of America or North America and you come into Central America or you go down to South America and you start meeting Black people in those countries, you'll be surprised that you have more in common than you have different, other than the language and the food.
Interesting, interesting. Well, all right, let's go to SKC in the building. Do appreciate you coming on up. I know it was a lot of things that was said during the interview portion that definitely piqued your interest. So go ahead, SKC. You have the floor. You have the mic. What's on your mind?
This is kind of difficult to know where to begin on this.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking. For people that are in the chat or whatever, it really does seem as though I'm listening to one of the guys that my dad or grandfather hangs out with. This is the type of talk that I would hear growing up a lot. So, so I just, it seems so surreal that he's on your show, but now,
I'm I'm shocked. Like that's something I didn't know about you, SKC. That you said your dad and granddad used to talk like this when you just was growing up. Like you was hearing like most of us don't get that. Most of us don't get that. So that I'm actually shocked by that. I thought you
yeah, I mean,
developed a lot of your ideologies and thought processes more or less on your own. So that's interesting in and of itself.
nah, not at all. I'm not that smart.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Real quick, before I go to you, get your comments or questions on what you've heard here. Shout out to Perfect Storm. He says, "I'm not investing in Africa. They sold my ancestors, so they should have plenty of loot." Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. We got who else we got in here? Shout out to the Perfect Storm. Uncle Stu in the building says, salute, supporting the stream. Shout out to Uncle Stu, the old man on the block. Do appreciate y'all. I'll be over there on his show, I believe on the 17th at 7 p.m. EST. So be looking out for that one. Dr. Thunder in the building says, here to support. And Dr. Thunder, man, listen, I'm sorry. Those making it to those case closed are getting harder and harder and harder. I want to make it. It's getting harder and harder for me to make it. I underestimated how I underestimated my amount of free time on Sunday. I really did. So, but I will be trying to make it to him. But I do appreciate you supporting. But go ahead, SKC. You have the floor. You have the mic.
Well, sure. I'll just, I guess, pick his brain a little bit more. You were talking about the mindset of people within this defunct community. A lot of the pocket watching, distrust that would go on. Now, when I would listen to my dad, my grandfather, they would say things like, this sort of mentality would be a product of a large breakdown of, or a large percentage of broken families. Because if you have people that are coming from broken families, they are going to have issues with trusting other people. What are your thoughts on that? Does that make sense?
It does make sense to a degree, but when you say broken families, you're not referring to poor people. Is that, are you equating them as being the same, or how are you actually interpreting that?
Well, I think it was a thought of a combination of both. When you
Okay.
have poverty and the broken family structure, um, distrust would be just a natural progression that comes out of that.
Well, I mean, in terms of, I think, individual and some family wealth in America for Black people, we probably have more money now, maybe not as much investment, but more money now than we probably had back in the 40s, 30s, and 20s and the 60s.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And back then, we were more cohesive. We trust each other and we build and work together. I think now there's such a me ideology and all about self that we automatically just don't want to care for anyone else other than your particular self. And to the degree that you'll invest anything in someone else is what they can do for you. And I contrast that with Central America. And I've spent a lot of time there. And I know many people who are broke, poor. But I tell you one thing, you walk up to their house, they will cook a meal for you.
yeah,
They
yeah.
will give you the clothes off their back if you needed it. A total stranger. But they have that love of not only family, but people.
Yeah, I'll
And
even add into that they'll even count it as a sort of a disrespect if you were to refuse what they make you, even though you know
absolutely,
it's probably like some of their last.
absolutely. Well, normally they will ask if they've already cooked, they will give you what they have. If they haven't cooked, they'll ask you what you want.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Um, I
Real
guess
quick
And that's
before you ask that next
and
question,
that's rich or poor. It's a cultural way.
Mr. Lee, what day and time do you normally do your show on Lapeef Network?
Usually on Sundays, and it's I think 3 p.m. Central, which is 2 p.m. my time, and usually it runs between 3 to 4 hours.
Okay, you said Sunday 3 p.m. Central, Sunday 3 p.m. Central.
So let's say three
Make
three to
a
seven or 3 to 6, somewhere in between there.
admin make a banner for that. Make a banner for that so people will know where to find him, because he don't got a link that we can put directly in the chat so we can go directly to his channel. But I do want we can just make a banner so I can put that scrolling across at the bottom. But all right, go ahead, SKC. What else you got?
no, just going back to that original thought about the family structure. Then I remember exactly what my grandfather's a little bit more uh, outspoken than my dad, but he would state that I think it's something along the line of family is a long term venture, hoeing is a short term venture.
Mm.
And when you have people that have believe in a hoeing structure personally, it becomes a bit more difficult for them to extrapolate that to a large group and understand how to do business, because in their personal life they're taking a lot of short-term risk.
That is so true. And we have mastered hoeing as a culture. And it's not just hoeing with women, but it's hoeing with everything that we do. Selling drugs is a hoeing process.
Mm.
It's an instant gratification way to get it at any means. And when you're hoeing, you selling yourself short to get something now that you feel is worth more than what I'm exchanging that for. And that's what we do. And that over time erodes your concern for the next man because he's hoeing on the other corner trying to sell his wares, and you see that as competition. So in our community, we don't value good competition in business. Eliminate the competition, that way I can have all the customers. So we shoot and we kill each other for a corner that we don't even own. And when you see those red and blue lights, whoop whoop whoop, everybody start to, you know, get straight. If they got something on them, they throwing it in the corner somewhere. If they got a piece on them, they're backing out and they're trying to get the hell off the corner. I grew up in the drug game, so I see how people move, and I see what was just a hustle back in the '60s have become a way of life in 2020.
Mm.
Last thing, because I
Hey,
know
hold
you
on,
got the
before you
other
say that
brother
last
up here.
thing, go back, say what your granddad said again about
Oh
hoeing.
yeah,
That was
he
some
would just
bars.
say that he would just say that family is a long term venture, and hoeing is short term, and it's difficult to have a large group of people who believe in hoeing in their personal life to come together for business.
Yeah, yeah. Your granddad had some bars, man. That was good. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, SKC.
No, the other thing is, you brought up this thought, um, Bernard, the thought about the hopium thing, and
Hmm.
I've always wanted to ask this question. Okay, so and I know how some people throw that word out, hopium or hope, and blah blah blah, and it has these negative connotations. Okay, well, the opposite of hope is despair. So, question: is that a viable mental state to reside in
Is that a question to me?
for everyone?
Is
Well,
hoping a viable mental state to reside in?
No,
I'll,
is despair, which is its opposite, a
well, if you're
viable mental state to reside in.
well, of course, despair isn't, but I don't think hope is a bad state to reside in unless you're just hoping and doing nothing. Then then that probably just turns into despair over time. But no, that's my thoughts on that. But despair, absolutely, hell no, that's not. You don't want to be there.
I would rather flip hope to faith because in faith, you have to do something to materialize what your hopes and aspirations are. So I think a lot of time, the trappings that we hang our hope on are really fruitless. And then we get discouraged, and then you can fall into despair. But if you are working towards achieving a goal and accomplishing something through your faith, whatever your faith is hinged to, your hope and aspiration is that you'll succeed at it. And with time, experience, exposure, and assistance, you can achieve your goals. And many times there are other people who see the benefits of your goals and aspirations too. And some people will help you without asking nothing in return. In Black America, that's difficult. But there are other people that are non Black that will definitely help you.
Yeah, I think Nate Dogg got it right. I think a better opposite of hope is defeatism, but neither here nor there. But shout out to we're about to go to Torrell Boxley in the building. He's we got Victor Carter in here says like love and hate, hope and despair are distractions. Okay. Okay. I don't know what to do with that one. Uh, he says faith and trust is key. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. I think I got it all on the super chat in. Go ahead, Toriel. You got the floor. You got the mic.
Hello, gentlemen. Hello, everyone else in the chat. Um, as Thank you, Mr. Sage. Man, a lot of what you're saying, I agree with where you're coming from because I've felt an angry man said it about 2 years ago that there's no saving the black community in America. It's just and it's in that point that you made. SKC's grandfather is so, like, he was so on point when he said, you have people that are just, they're looking for the quick. Everything's quick. They want the quick woman. They want the quick buck. They want to live the fast life. And and what I've been preaching in my family and those closest to me is that everything takes time. It all takes time. Um, like, even making a difference in your friend's life, it takes time, right? Um, Traveling, getting your life together, it takes time. Everything just takes time, and and you have to have the right people around you. And as my mom said like this, and like, don't be around people that, we've all heard the saying, like, don't be around bad people, right? Like, if you don't argue with people that, don't sit there and argue with people, because by the time that you're sitting there arguing with them, they'll been killed you. She would say it like that. She's from Mississippi, so she's like, "Oh, you argue with them, they've been killed you." And so I've learned to just, I don't waste my time, I don't waste my energy. I just got back, Bernard. Like, I was listening to you in Colombia,
Hmm.
and what he was saying, Sage, when he was saying, like, you see the culture there. uh, there's bad people down there, and there's good people down there, but they're culturally, they're similar, but they're so much better. It's so much different, right? Like, family means everything. Like, you notice that so much more when you leave America. How important the word family is. How important how important family really is in life, because again, they're poorer than us, so they're all working together as a one unit, and it's so phenomenal and strange at the same time. Like, did you see a household like the Jackson family, them all working together? Look, just, and I'm an 80s baby, so seeing that, growing up seeing the Jackson family, and it's so hard in America just to be like, damn, we can't get our shit together, we don't work together. Like, how do we expect to get ahead? And then we have all these women, all these men, we're making so much money, we're making so much money, and but we're just so divided, and it feels impossible. It just feels so impossible. Like, the only thing that'll make us get together is war. You know, I don't know, man. But if I sound frustrated, I'm not. I'm personally I'm relaxed. I was just in Colombia for a week. Trust me. But man, this is a great conversation. And I'm glad to be able to come up and say my piece today, man.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for coming on through. Do appreciate your commentary. And yeah, you did seem like you was like I thought tears was welling up in your eyes when you
Oh
was
my
getting going there, man. I
no,
you know
no,
I I
no.
thought I,
I'm
th- I
not.
thought you was going all the way there, man. I thought you was.
No, come
I've
on.
had three people have cried on my show, at least three.
Bernard, Bernard, I've been supporting you more than a year now, brother. Just, no, I'm stronger than that, man. Like, I listen. Look, I've let it go. Man, look, I care, but I don't care. Like, I can't. Again, I don't live in despair, and I am not. I don't know how to be hopeful for the black community. I just don't know how. I just don't see it.
Well, let's talk about this. I do want to take the conversation back to what he was talking about. I kind of want SKC's thoughts on what he said, what Mr. Lee said when he laid out that sort of scrapping it and starting over fresh. Um, like shout out to Little Big Nate, like minded black men, and talk about buying up, $100,000. I mean, I'm sorry, 100,000 acres worth of land and starting your own community there and essentially making it like a corporation. And then the
Yes.
people that live on the corporation would be bound by the rules and regulations of the corporation, so to speak. Violating the rules of the corporation, yeah, you get kicked out of there. You go back to the streets, so to speak. And by streets, I mean back to the rest of America. And that's how he's looking to foster what would essentially be I guess, a proper black community. What is your thoughts on that, SKC?
Well, he gave a great illustration about re-innovating things. And he's, I mean, that's been my experience as well. I'm pretty sure he has way more experience than I do, but renovating something, I would say it's somewhere between 80 to 90% a gutting project, where you're just getting rid of stuff that is absolutely unuseful or will inhibit growth in the future and cause you to have to go back in and tear something down and replace it anyway. So um, when I think about the whole clean slate thing, I think of it from that perspective as well. But using that illustration and building on it just a bit, when you think
Mm-hmm.
of renovating, you after you gut, you're getting new product, new materials. Also, even before you get the new materials, you're looking at plans, different plans that you have either got an engineer to or an architect to draw up or create, or you are looking at other structures that you want to borrow from. How do you how do you do that with a culture without looking outside of? Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. How do you do that with a culture?
Well, you definitely have to look outside because the culture that we have in America has been a mixture of the white American overall culture, some of the Caribbean cultures mixed in. I know that from being in New York. Italian culture, the drug game came from the Italians. I mean, there are ways for us, we're in a modern world, to be able to take pieces of what work, not only in America, but what we see in terms of family structure, traditionalism, modern, and patriarchy, and put a structure together that would work for us. What it would take to do that is single mindedness. Men, I hear a lot in this space about we're not a monolith. We're not a monolith. If you don't learn to work on the things that are best for your interests, you will always be at the bottom. Because every culture that comes to America know how to work together. They don't all think alike. They don't all want the same things, but they know the big picture of what's necessary for a community and a society. And those things comes first before the individual. But for us, the individual comes first at all costs and F the community. And that's why we have an effed up community.
Well, do you know where that part of the culture comes from? The individual.
The individual,
Yes.
I would say initially it's, and I may not be old enough to really uh, give an accurate interpretation on this part, but I would say it came from the drug game
No, it comes from the Constitution.
of the United States.
Yes.
No, that's
The ri-
for
no
success. That's
the
for achieving
rights, the rights, privileges, and freedoms provided to all American citizens makes us an individualistic society.
I disagree, Pablo.
Well, okay, you can disagree, but it's a fact. It's written.
Well, the reason why I state that is this: um, the document that you're speaking of, it itself is an amalgamation of a variety of laws, tenets, and governments that came before it. So to state that it is it itself constructs individualism while itself was
Well,
built from the masses of other governments. That's
What it
seems
does,
yes,
kind
but
of
it
oxymoronic.
provides, but it
what
provides individual freedoms and liberties.
right? It gives the individual protection, but it doesn't mean
It
that you
doesn't.
separate.
It doesn't just give them protections. It gives them liberties with
Hmm.
responsibilities associated with those liberties. But you do have those liberties as long as you don't break the laws, commit any felonies, that kind of thing. You are free to be stupid.
No, but the liberty doesn't say you turn your back on your family.
But you
And I'm
have the
talking.
liberty to do so.
Hold on one second. Well, anyone could do that, whether it was written or unwritten. If you were someone who of the mind to not care about your family 1,000 years ago, you can go off on your own and not care about your family. You didn't need a written law or society structure to do that. What I'm saying is the way we have begun to behave as a people is that because we had little and we saw hustling as an option to get what others had faster without education, we got into that game. And it did give a fast return, but it wasn't long term. And because the system made sure that they kept their foot on that, we were never able to take that money and make it into something because we didn't do it with a mission in mind. Like when Miami was built from drug money, the bankers and the politicians knew they were going to use that money to develop infrastructure. We didn't think that way. We thought if I could have fly clothes, a car, I could get more bitches. That's what we thought. And it worked. And we build on that. And when a 10-year-old see an 18-year-old that can pull out 5 G's out of his pocket and give enough money to go buy a new pair of sneakers, he's like, when I grow up, I want to be like him.
And it's still working.
Okay then. Okay then. Why not be better? Why not just be better Americans?
What?
Say again.
Why not just be better Americans? If the bankers and the people in Miami said, oh, we're going to take this drug money and we're going to build infrastructure, then in my mind, the natural response would be, oh, now you have this, why not be a better American like the people who built Miami and say, we're going to be better Americans too.
Well, the people who built it, they were at a different level, and they didn't have the survivalist instinct. I mean, the survivalist aspect of their life for their day to day. They were taking tens and hundreds of billions, I mean millions, to do what they were going to do. The guy at the bottom, let me finish. The guy at the bottom,
So I,
he was just thinking about
Hold up.
his
uh-huh.
own family dynamic and how he wanted to either provide for his family, may have started that way, but then it went to be providing for self. Now, whether or not that could have became a more cohesive group in thinking, unfortunately, we as a people didn't demonstrate that much in our history in here in America. So I can't speak to why
The-
people went left.
My thought
Everybody
process is
didn't.
this. Okay,
Yeah.
my thought process is this though. If the United States has all of these provisions that make people, who come here with little or nothing, including the Caribbean, come here and build their lives, then why not look around and say, I want to be an American too?
Well, I think part of that
Instead of
comes
trying
from
to be separate from America. Why not just be better at being American?
Well,
Yeah,
absolutely. That's what
wait,
I would say.
real quick,
I agree with
Pablo,
that.
hold on, real quick. Your mic is popping, it's crackling or something like that.
Yeah,
So
it is.
I
And
don't know if you could
delayed.
do anything with that. But go ahead, Mr. Lee. You had said, what did you say in response to what he
Well,
just said?
no, what I would say is that you're right. Why? It's easy to devolve than to evolve. It's easier to do wrong than to do right. Because right when you walk a life where you have integrity and character, many times you may have to make sacrifices and let go things that can give you an easier path. And many times the easier path is usually to go left and to be a crook. So as you go down that path over time, and then you do it generation after generation, you're just going to devolve. You're not going to evolve. Very few people will come out with good character living in a life for 20, 30 years in bad behavior. You have to walk away from it from a
Yeah,
very early age. I walked
hold
away
on.
from it from a very early age.
I think what's happening. I think the disconnect between the two of you, because I understand completely what Pablo is saying. Yeah, there's something to being an individual, and those that typically speak against the type of individualism that Pablo talks about. Those are the people that are trying to put a ball and chain on a black man's ankle and keep him stuck in a community. But the conversation was kind of front loaded or preloaded with the idea of simply scrapping that community and building your own up, sort of separate and apart from what's going on. Like, I don't know if you were here at the beginning, or if you heard that, Pablo, but were you opposed to just that general idea where he was talking about buying 100,000, well, and one ain't got to ante up the money, get 100,000 acres, and and making it more or less a corporation with certain rules and bylaws, and that's more or less governs
Well,
the people within it. Were you absolutely opposed to that? Because I generally like the idea, because I
it
think,
sounds like separatism to me.
okay.
Separate from who?
It sounds like separatism. Is what it
Separate
sounds
from
like.
whom?
You said separate from who?
I don't know. You tell me who's allowed in and who's not. What's the criteria?
He probably ain't gonna say it this way, but when you say who's not allowed in, I think the answer is niggas. But
Well, I
Well,
think he made. I think he made it. I think he made it quite clear when he stated that when you set it up as, I believe, as a corporation, that people would have to sign off on those bylaws. So you would automatically exclude the people who refuse to sign off and abide by those bylaws. I mean, was I
Well,
mistaken?
okay.
they would exclude themselves because they would choose not to.
Right.
Uh, so I don't know.
If you
You
don't
said
want
the
to give up,
community. They put community in the
no,
title. So who's
no.
in the community?
Well, I didn't. I'm
well,
not
hold
sure
on.
Bernard
what
did.
you're referring to.
Let
I'm
me
not
make
sure what
sure
you're.
let me make sure what my title is. The
Yes.
impossibility of
Save the
saving
community.
the no, it doesn't say save the community. It said the impossibility of saving the community. And what he's talking about is not saving it. What he's talking about is abandoning it, and basically building another one up. That's what he's talking about.
I'm talking about building a new black community, a new vision.
Oh, y'all see there now. There you said black community. So somebody's in. Somebody is the dominant persons there, right?
Well, I'm not talking about building a new white community, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. So now we're
I said, I
we're
said,
drilling down.
I said, if a black man has a white wife, or any wife of any ethnicity or nationality or race,
Okay.
I'm not telling
What
a
if
man who
Shonda
has
want? What if Shonda want to
I'm not.
bring Brad?
If who?
If Shonda wants to bring Brad, is that
The
okay?
swirlers.
A
Well,
black woman.
women can't.
Go ahead.
Well, hear me out. Women can't own anything in this community. Period. It is a
Oh,
patriarchy, not a
oh
matriarchy.
shit.
So only
Oh
the men would
shit.
own.
Okay.
So you could
So
bring your
so
wife with you, but she can't bring no man because she has no rights in that level. She'll have other
okay.
rights as a woman in the society, but she won't have property rights. She won't
Okay.
have voting rights.
So
She's under
Brad
the.
could bring
She's.
Shonda.
She's. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Wait, hold on. You said Brad is welcome in here.
I'm talking about building a black community. He
Okay,
was
so
trying
then
to.
Brad.
He was
Okay,
trying. He
then
was trying to.
Brad is the name for just the proverbial
I know
White
white
it's
guy.
guy. He
referred to as
okay, yeah. So
white
yeah,
people. Yeah.
he wouldn't be able to bring nobody
Well,
in.
what
He
I'm
wouldn't be
saying
able
is
to
that
get in. Yeah.
why would a white person want to come into an all-black community anyway?
Uh, have you looked around lately?
to gentrify it. I'm pretty sure he's convinced that he's coming in like, give me 6 months, I'll be running the place. That's what he's coming in thinking.
I mean, you can't watch any commercials, any weekend or sports event. They're promoting this swirling. They're selling these sisters on this idea that you can get you a Brad, that you can have, the curly hair biracial kids, just as equally as black men are wanted by all other cultures of women across the world. So
And I'm
yeah,
not against it. I'm just asking the tough questions. I'm being, a bit uh, contrarian, but these are the things that's gonna, you know,
come up.
come
Hmm.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, good stuff, good stuff. Car
I, you
designer
know,
Chris in the building says, "Good point, Pablo. Get that education, make that good money, and if you have a little hustle, move that money to stocks or property." Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. Shout out to Dr. Thunder. Says, "Can't put new wine in old wine skins." Appreciate the super chat. Appreciate everybody who's supporting the stream. Go ahead. Somebody was
I was
fixing to
about
speak. Go
I
ahead.
was about to see the crazy thing is Mr. Lee and Bernard is that I actually had this idea like I'm 38 now, right? I've had this idea since I was 18, 19, 20 of like, oh, how can we save the black community? Um, because I was reading books. Actually, I cannot pronounce the author's name, but it's the book called State of Emergency in Black America. It's the author out of Chicago. He has a very African name. He changed his name. He changed his name to an African name, but the name of his book is State of Emergency. Um, and I had this idea like, oh yeah, we have to do the same thing that you're suggesting. We gotta separate ourselves. And honestly, Pablo, the only way that we would be able to save somewhat of a black community or recreate a black community is to actually do the separatist thing. And obviously, Farrakhan has mentioned this many, many, many times. Um, it's just what it is. You have to separate yourself. Like, if you're a butterfly, you're not going to hang around roaches.
Well, um, here's the thing. This
Wait,
goes
hold on.
back
I
to
think
my.
Mr. Lee, were you trying to say something? I had
Yeah.
you muted. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, what I was going to say, because I saw someone in the chat, I also dropped a message that, if the white man come in, he's going to take over in 6 months. I
Yeah.
think black men in general, you guys have, when I say you guys, it's generalized. If it doesn't pertain to you, or if you don't believe it pertains to you, don't be offended. But if you do believe it's pertaining to you, you can push back and we can have a conversation. What I would say is that most of you guys believe that the white man is better. He's not. I worked on Wall Street for 18 years, and for 10 of those years, the white man didn't know that I wasn't black. I mean, that I was black. They thought I was white. And I advised multi-billion-dollar portfolio funds on what to do and how to trade the market. And I beat them at their game. And what we did moved the market on day to day. So I've seen black men in the upper echelons of white society running shit. Their ice is not colder, bro. They just have a good marketing and image campaign that works on your
Hmm.
mind. But
Hmm.
if you've been up there with white people and you compete with them, beating them is not difficult. It's just that some of us, think that they are better because they run shit. Your problem is that you never run shit, so you don't know how good you are.
Mm. No,
Most
good
white
stuff.
men don't
Great.
run anything. I work with them. They don't run anything. They show up to work every day like I do.
Well, I'm
That's
talking
true as
about the
well.
ones who have positions, right? I'm
Yeah.
not saying the masses. I'm saying if you work at a company, there's somebody that owns the company and there's a management infrastructure. That's what I'm referring to.
I, a lot of this has already been quote unquote done before or attempted before. Um,
A lot of what? What are you
I-
referring to?
the what you're discussing, like these things have been attempted in the history of this country before. Maybe not in the same fashion that you're describing, but
So
historically, this
because
has
something
been.
failed once means it should never be attempted again?
No, I just don't think it. I think it's a very 1960s kind of a thought process about the United States and the culture of it.
I'm not
I'm
even
I'm curious.
I
I'm
don't
curious,
think it
Pablo.
fits.
I'm you got me curious now, Pablo. I'm curious. What would be your alternate strategy to what Mr. Lee is stating?
Mm.
My oh, do you really want to hear it?
Oh yeah, let's go.
Well, I am of the mindset that in order to redo a culture, you have to do it with a culture that's already functional, with people from a culture that's already functional.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you're saying substitute people? Is
I
that
said
the
merge. He's talking about
For
merging.
for for those for those who want to have a functional culture apart from what we currently have, then you need to go and partner with people from a culture that already is working.
okay? Now I agree with some of the things that both of you guys are stating, and I just have this question, and I wanted to sit back and listen. I actually want to hear what Bernard has to say on this as
That's
well.
why I said just be a better
Um,
American. If American,
um,
if the
Hold on, wait,
greater
go.
American culture is working, why not participate in that?
All right,
when
go ahead,
When
SJC. You was asking a question.
Mr. Lee stated gave us the illustration of gutting a building for
Mm-hmm.
renovation. What are some aspects of black culture that you would gut?
Oh man, it would. I'm sure it'd be the same thing, same ones that you would gut. But I mean, I would initially start
Well,
out with
I would say
I would.
Owing would
But
have to
hold
go.
on, but real quick, I would initially start out with the getting rid of aspects of the victim mentality and understanding the simple power of ownership. I would start right there. Um, I would, the mere fact. I mean, we could talk a lot about not owning a lot of the businesses in black communities, but it's one thing to the amount of us that can't even clear the hurdle of simply owning the house that you live in and being able to just simply pass that down to your kids. Die, have a life insurance policy of x number hundred thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, pass that down. Teach them ownership. And now they're inheriting life insurance policies in a home, if not homes, from you when you die, when you move on. And then they're doing the same thing,
But
and now the grandkids. So that, like, if doing that right there, that would be just the to me that would be the biggest step.
but wouldn't you say that a prerequisite to that would be that you have to get rid of the hoeing mentality?
Of course, as
So
he
what else
described it,
would
as he described it earlier. For those that wouldn't hear at the beginning, he was just talking about doing things fast, quick, cheap, and and easy, so to speak. I think if I'm understanding it right, just basically yeah, not having a long term mindset, but doing everything more on a short term basis. So yes, getting rid of that mentality. Yeah.
what would you gut, Mr. Lee?
You got to unmute yourself, Mr. Lee. You got to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Well, obviously, a lot of things that we have is behavioral, right? Which were all learned. I think violence towards one another, we need to eliminate that.
Wait, hold on. Wait, real quick. I do want to address something in the chat room because when I said what I said, Silent said, Bernard, that's not a black problem, though the mass, said the mass, I think you mean vast majority of Americans are one paycheck away from being homeless. There are a lot of white people who are one paycheck away, two paychecks away from, from ends not meeting. That is true. But when you have ownership of something, namely your house, that does put you in a different position to where, yeah, you're down, but you're not out. You have more options. And if you just survive your whole life paycheck to paycheck, you're passing something down. You're passing the life insurance policy. You're getting the life insurance policy, and that home is getting passed down. So it's like their paycheck to paycheck for some of them, and hashtag not all, probably not even most, but for a good percentage of them, yeah, they're paycheck to paycheck, but they also, have something called a net worth as well, so it's different. It's different. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm getting at there. But go ahead, Mr. Lee.
Well, yeah, as I was saying, a lot of things revolve around our behavior. So I think those are some of the things that I would look at first. The violence that we have one towards another, I think we would need to address that, because I don't think black men love themselves as men and boys, because it's difficult for me to see how for something that you can easily just shoot another black person and kill them for something or some emotional reaction that you have had. I've never had that in me. And I grew up around some some people who had rules for behavior and conduct. I was never in the military, but I've also lived overseas for a time. And I've lived in countries where your life can disappear in a heartbeat, a lot easier than America. But you really have to do something worthy for a person to take one's life. Like even in Honduras, where I live now, when someone die, other than natural death, you know that they were in the drug game. Because people just don't get their head blown off or get chopped up unless they were trespassing on someone else in the drug game. Regular citizens in the society practically die from natural death. And for us, we are so reckless that even those who are in the drug game, they wind up killing people who have nothing to do with the drug game. So I think our whole behavior and how we look at ourselves needs to be ripped out and revamped. Sometimes I ask the question, was slavery the reason why we actually cared and worked together? Because it seems as though after the 60s, when civil rights came, we didn't give a shit about black people anymore. We closed all our businesses and we went and patronized all the other businesses and made them rich, but we didn't value any black business in the community anymore. And that has just compounded to now where, as a people, we don't trust one another to spend our money with one another. We can't look at another brother and see that brother coming up and not look for a way to take him down or take him off, to rob him. We are so selfish as a people that we kill ourselves daily for nothing. Like that woman in, in Bed-Stuy, New York, called her son on some person that was helping her at McDonald's, and they gave her cold fries. Now, it was funny because she calls her son, tells him everything that went on, knowing the kind of son that she has. This guy's got 13 priors. But then she says at the end, I didn't want you to come down. How you going to hype a guy up, you his mom, and then don't expect him to do anything about it? And I think as men, we have to learn how to question things. We can't just have somebody tell you something and react. You got to be probative. You got to ask them what happened. Okay, all right. You know what? Forget about the fries. I'll take you to dinner tonight. Find ways to neutralize situations that can escalate, as opposed to feeling that everything must be answered because my ego is at stake, my status is at stake. And we walk around with this phony status like our respect is higher than anyone else's respect. And Lord forbid, if another black man even hints at disrespecting me, he must fall. We look at each other as like pennies, man. Nobody pick pennies up off the street anymore. You just kick it to the curb, and we kill each other like it's nothing.
Mm.
The women
Yeah.
kill the babies. I
Yeah.
mean, when I looked at the result of Roe versus Wade when it was overturned, and you looked at the millions of black children that were killed by black women, that was atrocious.
Mhm.
I mean, we are killing our future, and then at the same time, we talk
Let's not
about
leave that. That's not
generational wealth. We talk about generational wealth and legacy. Your legacy starts first with your children before you even make a dime. If you've got nobody to leave it to, what do you got? Nothing. And all we do is kill one another. So this whole thing, whatever that mindset, whatever that virus is that's in us, I would find someone who can extricate that, because we need that removed ASAP.
All right, all right. Silent, you said you want, what's going on? Welcome back. Welcome to the show. You said you wanted to respond to what I responded to you. So go
Roger,
ahead.
Roger. Just to provide some context, and remember, this was a few years ago, before the manosphere went mainstream, right? And I was saying how I gave that commentary, and then Jon Stewart got on TV and damn near repeated me word after word. You remember our conversation about that?
Unfortunately, no, I don't.
Oh my Lord, bro, you
Sorry,
killing me.
sorry.
You're killing me.
I'll take your word. I'll take your word.
When I was having the conversation about the New Deal and the home ownership, and I said Jon Stewart got on TV, and this was when I was saying, hey, people in the mainstream are listening. This was before KS went mainstream, and I kept telling people, don't be surprised at who's listening. People are listening. They're repeating our stuff word for word. And after Jon Stewart gave that speech I gave you, so anyway, you were speaking about, because I think context matters. So you're correct in that Caucasian people do have that home ownership to fall back on. That was actually I wanted to bring us back to that conversation, because that's actually the speech I was giving on your panel. By giving, so what happened, for the folks that don't know, is that they had the New Deal, okay, after the Depression. Caucasian people were broke, because I mean, I advocate for black people. I just think a lot of times we idolize and we look at Caucasian people with rose-colored glasses. Okay. Again, remember, right after slavery, as far as when we say black people right out of slavery during Reconstruction built over 250 very successful black towns. Most of them were burned to the ground. Okay. So this notion that we don't do this is wrong. It takes time to build all of these structures. The same time that those Caucasian people got access to that home ownership through the New Deal that black people were blocked out from, that home ownership allowed them to then use the equity to create businesses and create wealth that they were able to pass down to their children through that home ownership. I mean, we're still hearing stories now of those homes now that were bought for 10 grand worth, $800,000 or $1 million. Okay. Black people were locked out of that, even with it was through the FHA loans. That's where the FHA loans started. Now, they were supposed to be government-backed loans, for veterans, but they did not allow black people to qualify. That's where redlining was really big. They just wouldn't allow black people to buy homes. This is when the ghettos were created, because back in the day, like now, most of the ghettos are in the cities. Back in the day, the ghettos used to be out in the suburbs, but they used to be kind of like, y'all seen the movies is that not Devil in the Blue Dress, but the one where Denzel was out in Los Angeles, right? And he's got to hunt down a missing girl, right? They had black enclaves. It kind of like Compton, where it's the hood, but it's like the suburbs with palm trees. Then white people wanted to move out to the suburbs. So then by eminent domain, they displaced all those people, moved black people down to the cities and housing projects so that the white people could come in, swoop up those homes on the cheap, and then use government-backed loans. So yes, they are able to do that because one hand washed the other for them. So when you say, well, black people just didn't do that, no, that's wrong.
Well, hold on, wait, just real quick. I wasn't saying black people just didn't do. I understand there were things that we weren't able to do, going back, especially going back in Jim Crow. I get all of that. I was talking about in the here and now. Like,
right. What I'm saying is that affects the here and now.
No, I understand why they have a head start. I get that part.
I guess the commentary was more like, because we, hearing the brother talk, we kept going into these, because I don't know what some chick in Illinois or Chicago throwing a fit over French fries got to do with a brother in Dallas. Like we tend to do that we stuff and then point out the lowest common denominator of black people and then say, well, most black people aren't shooting people over fries at McDonald's. They're not. So, if
black people are shooting people at a significantly higher rate than other
people,
they're
not. But they're not. Black murders represent less than 1% of the entire black population. So y'all, what we've adopted, yes, what people have done. I've seen how these conversations progress. It started because.
Hold on. Wait, no, just go ahead. I just think I probably just needed to mute Mr. Lee. Go ahead.
So these conversations started because we pick up white talking points, because the white talking point would always be 50% of the crime is, and you keep hearing that over and over and over. When you actually do the research, the number is fucking bullshit. What's really
stats, bro?
We
can look up murder stats.
We can pull them up. Murder stats and people in jail. How many people are actually in jail versus the actual population of black people? Again, you get lost in that 50%. It's not the people that are in jail are disproportionately black. That doesn't then mean this percentage of black people are committing crime. People just don't know how to read statistics.
No, the stats on murders and who committed them is pretty clear. And yeah, black people do commit at least half the murders in this country.
And what we're going to extrapolate is, where does crime normally happen? In poor neighborhoods, correct? You don't hear a lot of crime. Here's the stat. When you give black people money, crime disappears. Black crime all but disappears when black people hit the middle class and above. Another fact is crime stays the same for Caucasian people regardless of social class. Black crime is pretty much relegated to poverty, impoverished areas. The problem with black people in crime is they don't have any money. When you solve the problem of money, you solve black crime. We pretty much solve most of those problems, which is, to be honest, that's why people are against reparations, because they understand the freedom that giving black people money, because they don't want you being able to live your life and move to the suburb next to the white women they done try to get away from. But that's another story. Again,
somebody has argued that never mind. I was about to bring. I didn't want to botch one of BGS's arguments, so I'm not even gonna go there.
But again, black crime is centralized in poor areas. So I don't want to hear about Chicago. That's inevitable. If you're gonna put impoverished people in desperate situations, that's a human problem. Okay, so you centralize these problems into a poor community. When you hear about these Pookies and all these scenarios, okay, it ain't never Henry from the bank doing it.
Of course, it's not.
Right. So again, we take the lowest common denominator and take out all of the context and just say we. What niggas are doing in the hood, in the ghetto, really isn't a mark on black people as a whole. That's a human problem. You put people in impoverished ghetto areas, you're going to have crime. That's just the nature of how it works. Again, if the argument wasn't true, then the crime you should hear about middle class blacks having these issues. Then why
would you hear about middle class black?
Because you're making an argument. Oh, go ahead.
Can I ask a question?
Those are black people that have made better decisions in life.
No, because you're making an argument that there's a deficiency with black people. That is kind of
I wasn't saying that. No, I think everybody agrees that the problem.
Even my older brother.
Everybody.
Oh, go
hold
ahead.
on, wait, real quick. I think everybody, maybe possibly with the exception of SKC, believes
Yeah.
that most of the problems are cultural.
But again, I don't agree with that. That's to me, when I hear cultural, I hear there's something wrong with black people. The
No, something
problem
can
is
be wrong with the
financial.
okay. When you say something just inherently wrong with them, I'm thinking that you're saying that we're just basically just genetically hardwired to be messed up.
Well,
I don't
I'm
think
not the one
nobody is.
saying that.
I know, but
Yeah.
that's what I hear when somebody is saying that something is inherently wrong. I hear them
Well,
saying
no,
that.
that's what I hear when
I
someone
know,
says
I
something
know,
is wrong
I
with
know.
culture. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So I'm saying when somebody is saying that black people are something is inherently wrong, what
Mhm.
I hear is them saying that they are somehow we are genetically hardwired to be messed up, which I don't believe. I believe there are cultural problems that can be corrected. My problem is that when people start really speaking hard and coming hard against and speaking out against those things that are wrong culturally, then people try. Then we got to hear about the history.
But
This
remember,
the
Bernard,
history.
that's not my argument. Remember, you talking to silent. You can't
Okay,
project all those other bullshit
I know.
arguments on me.
I was projecting more or less what you said 5 minutes ago. You start
No,
talking about all the reasons, and it's not really that bad, and it's not really this, it's not
I
really
didn't
that.
say that it wasn't that bad. I didn't. You
Okay,
guys project. You're not listening well. I didn't say anything about it not being that bad. I'm saying that the synopsis that I'm hearing is from that I'm getting. We. There's something wrong with black people. That's what I'm hearing. There's something wrong with our
no.
culture.
Something wrong with the no. Something
Li-
wrong with black. Hold on, real quick. Something wrong with black people, and something wrong with the culture. Those are two different things.
Listen, what I'm saying. I'm telling you what I'm hearing from you.
We can build a better culture
Okay.
if we can be
Black
honest about
culture
what's
is a
wrong.
part of American degenerate culture. Black American, like I keep hearing about this community. Like the America that I see is not community, man. The America that I live in is all about individual.
I
America
agree.
is all about me. Right now. That is American culture. So this notion that everyone has this community is BS. Other
I agree with that.
cultures share a ideology.
Mm-hmm.
They do not share a community. They share an ideology. And a lot of it, especially from Caucasian culture, is more based on, what's the word, like a nationality, right? They share kind of, like, I'm an American, it's kind of that kind of
American.
base, but
Yeah.
it's not communal based. So I think it's important for us to understand the difference. This notion that all this white community is over there kumbaya and is bullshit. Those are the most ruthless, individualist people that you can meet. So it's
No,
important that black people.
they're top 1%ers or 5%ers. Yeah, they're ruthless capitalists that end up building a lot of stuff and owning a lot of stuff and employing a lot of people, and everybody else just gets the job and they get rich.
Right.
And so yeah, I
Black
get that.
people have more in
I get
common
that.
with.
But I would.
Mhm.
So we don't disagree right there. Mr. Lee wanted to jump in and respond
Yeah,
to what you said.
Pablo, nationalist. That's what
I
I'm
don't.
going at. But go ahead, brother.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, what I would say is, first of all, that it seems as though the argument he's making is that there's not a problem in Black America.
That's not what I
It
said.
needs, it
That's
is not. Let me finish my statement. I sat back and listened to you.
Mhm.
Complete whatever you wanted to say.
look, just
Allow
I
me,
just respectfully just.
allow me the same grace. If I am in error of what you interpret from what I say, then you can respond. But let
But
me
what I'm
say
saying
it.
is, if you start with that notion, you're going to jack up everything else after it. If you start with the wrong notion
So
off the bat.
All right. He
you can't
can move
can't
forward
allow
after
you
that
can't tell
correction. Hold
me
on,
what
wait.
to say. You can disagree with it, but you can't tell me what to say. Okay, as I was saying, from what I discerned from what he was laying out is that the Black community is not that bad and there's nothing to fix. There are some people, that's why I say it would have to be a private corporation, because there's some people who just not going to be a part of it. There's some people who do not see the problem or don't think the problem is worthy of any work necessary
Bernard, are you going to allow him to continue to
improved upon.
that's what I
Hey,
said.
silent. Let him. You gotta let him finish. If he let you finish, just let him finish.
And I don't have anything to combat his argument because I know the argument. I just don't want to go down that conversation.
I
we're
mean, it'd be
talking
nice if
about
you respond to what I actually
Silent,
said.
come on, man. Look, silent, come on,
we're
man.
talking about whether or not it can be saved. My opinion is start anew. And I proposed a possible idea. It doesn't mean that that's the only idea or that may be the framework. The point is, I gave a possibility of what could be a next step that men who have money, who have experience, who are wealthy in America, black men who want to make a change, that those men could come together if they really wanted to and saw an opportunity to do that. And that would start small with a small community of black men, their wives, and their children. And they would build and grow it generation by generation. However, you can't go into each black community around the United States and try to repair and fix each one for their individual problems that each unique community may have. It's just not going to happen. And that's what I was talking about, gutting it. You got to gut it down to the studs. Anything short of that will always have leaks, electrical shortage, cave-ins, roof falling in, all kind of shit going on. And I'm just using an allegory to reference the problems that each community may have that are unique and different: East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, South, so forth. Start somewhere and build anew. If that germinates, it can be replicated over and over in different areas. And that's where you can phase the change throughout America over 1 or 2 generations. But if you don't see that there's an issue big enough, worthy of attacking, then you're not going to be part of the new solution. As simple as that. You can keep it the way it is, and I don't have a problem. You
Well,
know,
that's
one of
fair. Can I respond now?
the motto on my show is I'm not trying to change you.
But
Simple and straight.
can I respond? Because you still went on that whole conversation under the auspice of what I
You have
said.
the mic now, silent. You have the mic
Roger
now.
that. So I allow him to finish, and he still continue. I didn't say that. Again, like, I know what, when you tee it up, I know what you're gonna say. Like, come on, Bernard, we've been here. I just want him to respond to what I actually said. Anytime someone says that, so what you're trying to say is, they always bastardize what you said in order to make what you said easier to detect. I didn't say that there wasn't a problem. I didn't say that there wasn't a problem to fix. So although that whole diatribe was great, that was nothing to what I actually said. I just want, my frustration comes if I get on the panel and I try to be clear on what I know, that these conversations have many layers that everyone's trying to break down into a 1-sentence solution. But it's important for you, the person, to listen to what I actually say. If I'm going to sit through and listen to you diatribe, at least it be based on what I actually said, instead of you putting words in my mouth and then arguing against that. I listen very well to when other people speak. And then I try to, if I disagree with something specifically they said, I do that. But if you're going to go on a 5-minute conversation when I didn't even say that, it's frustrating to just let you finish and bastardize what I said. Is it? I mean, I mean, it really should be that simple in communication. And if I say, hey, that's not what I said, then you should say, okay, clarify for me what you said. But you just want to say what you want to say, regardless of what I said, while bastardizing what I said. I'm saying that that's not fair in conversation. So if you're unclear on what I meant,
may I offer
you
a
know,
question
Hold on,
that
SK2.
it'll help me as
but
well.
yeah.
It's silent. So from Mr. Lee's perspective, I'm asking, what would you identify as, let's say, I don't know, the top 2 or 3 issues that black people need to fix amongst themselves? Like, what are those top
Okay,
2
no
or 3
problem.
issues that you
No
see?
problem. No problem. I mean, I know y'all wanted me to get me into the problem with black. See, to be honest, that's not my forte. I'll let you conservatives have that, to be honest with you. I'm here. I have always been here standing in for black men. You may not agree with everything I say, but I'm not your enemy, for one. I've always been for and for black men. So let me just make that clear. And people that know me on these panels know my story. So I'm the last person to be about making excuses. I'm completely objective. So I want to get that out the way. But the problem I see with black people, we're talking about, okay, we don't have any money. I think our number one problem, I think, is financial. I think by financially liberating specifically Black men, that will not Black people, specifically Black men, because if you give Black women money, they're going to look out for themselves. If you
Agreed.
give Black men money and the power, I believe the mass majority of Black men as a whole will do the right thing. I don't take this position that there's just something wrong with Black people. If you give Black people money, they'll just fuck it up and buy Jordans. I think the mass majority of Black people are they need liberation. They need a pathway to kind of get access to resources and things that they can kind of do. And I think
that's a great point to start from. And if I could, because Ed is up here, Bernard, could I throw you a little bit underneath the bus, Bernard, if you don't mind?
Yeah,
Or
you
at
can.
least,
Okay, all right. Before SKC throw me under the bus, I was honestly planning on wrapping this up right at the 2-hour mark of which we're at, but then Ed came up. SKC about to throw me under the bus. I got a feeling the show about to get interesting. So
okay,
yeah,
so
support the stream, because I was ready to quit on y'all, but it looked like we're about to get
don't quit.
Yeah,
I just have a
I'm
question,
just trying to
Bernard,
get them to
because
support the stream to throw something in the collection plate. It keep me going a little stronger, but I was ready to quit.
The reason why I'm asking this is not like a complete throw under the bus. It's just I'm trying to understand where this all sits, because, like, take for example, I remember it was a stream that you were doing in BGS. He came up, and one of the statements that was put forth was that when it comes to Black people, the community and the whole nine, wherever Black women go, the men will follow. That was the thought pattern that was pushed, and they stated, even if you look at, I think the exact statement he said, if Black women all went Republican, Black men would be Republican overnight. Okay, so my question would be, if you gave Black men the money, are you saying that they're not going to follow the women?
Are you asking me that?
I'm asking everybody.
If you gave Black men the money,
well,
hold on, real quick, Silent. I want to make sure I understand this question. You say if you gave them the money, they're not going to follow the women. Okay, giving them the money and following the women, those are two different things.
You mean to tell me that all of a sudden they're not going to continue to follow the whims of what the women want?
Yeah, like, so we can revisit. I'm gonna do a boomerang. Well, I circle right back to that, just to answer what was said before.
Oh my God! Now I'm never gonna get to talk.
As far as
go ahead, my nigga.
Oh, okay. Now, okay, that was a Hurricane Network joke. All right, I got it.
Yeah, as far as that liberation shit, all you need is, I mean, we've got an example. The last 2 years is a perfect example. All that PPP money, or trial, all that PPP money, all of that fucking extra fucking unemployment that folks were getting, where they're making more money than they were making working. And now we gone from that to motherfuckers are at the table. Homosexuality is at an all-time high. I mean, Silent, you in Dallas, you in one of the areas where gentrification is like a motherfucker. And no, I'm not gonna turn it into that. My point is gentrification is like musical chairs. It's like musical chairs. That's what I mean for this conversation. Yeah. Meaning, if you not own your shit, regardless of what you want to blame it on, you still gonna be fucked. Like, we can say so my point, the boomerang back to that is, we already know how folks are going to generally act. And we also know, by the way, when you give people that are impoverished money, I'm not arguing against reparations, by the way, but I'm just saying, if you give people money that win the lottery, we know how that usually goes down. We know how athletes usually go down up until maybe in the last 10 years, how that generally went. So we already know how, if you give people a flush of money, that all of a sudden that doesn't change them, that doesn't change the dynamics, that just unlocks who they already low-key want to be. And the problem I've always said that I base my channel around is our culture is fucked up. And that ain't just Black women. The cultural algorithm in general is fucked up. So to bring it back to what SKC was talking about, that, well, of course, you know what I'm gonna say, because part of the matriarchy is men volunteering to follow women. Too many Black men view their manhood from
When you get a second, Edward, can I ask you a quick question?
From the woman's point of view, meaning women get to tell men who are the men. This is why we have a community. Think about it. Look at who they're picking. Look at what that's producing. And then everybody wants to pretend like water ain't wet. And so we come back to this bullshit over and over again. And when we do, and I'm almost done, but our 15 more seconds. What the Black Manosphere tries to do, or one of the things it tries to do, is we try to elevate the awareness of Black men to what your personal power is, for personal responsibility to yourself, to your life. And if the community needs to be a benefactor of that, then the community is going to have to be for you. It can't be that men just supposed to be workhorses just because they're men. And that's really the argument that we have with a lot of guys, is they think you should just do it just because. Like, you don't, like, you know what I'm saying? We believe, no, there's got to be some reciprocation here. And that's how you know who's full of shit. Anyway.
Right. Well, guess what? I didn't understand about SKC's question. Put it like this. If you would have worded it just as simply as, okay, if you give men the money, or I mean, were you talking about like reparations or something like that, SKC?
Well, whatever financial means that you're talking about, that would be unmasked.
Yeah, because I think he was like responding to my like financial and crime. I think that was all in the same vein. If I'm
all right. So okay, so if you do whatever you got to do to make Black men whole, don't give it to the Black women, just give it to the Black men. I mean, if you're asking me, will they potentially make possibly frivolous decisions in, around, or revolving around women in some kind of way? Yes, but I know if that's what you meant by follow women, then
what I was thinking is this: are we really putting forth the idea that you give this type of capital to Black men in whatever for fashion that you want to give it to them? Are you really going to sit up and tell me that they are not going to follow
I'll answer
the
that.
whims of what
yeah,
women
but that's
want?
too, like, your shit is complicated and simple at the same time. Like back in the day in the 60s when the Monahan scissors shit was going on, that's a different answer, because the women were slightly different, the men were slightly different. You're talking about 30 years post crack era thought. You're talking about a completely different bitch. Hell, from 2000 to 2000 now, you're dealing with a completely different type of bitch, and then you're dealing with a different type of dude. So
Ed, we're in the era of get your booty to the pole.
Well, my point is, you like, I don't want to say that that's always been that way, but right. See, the problem is what you would have is you have to, because then you're assuming will they deal with Black women. Now we're talking about the community, and so it just depends. Dudes that operate in a certain class or in certain stuff are gonna do what they do. But if you give Black men, they're like, if you give Pookie and Ray Ray some money, and I hate to say it this way, but I mean, so Pookie and Ray Ray shit are gonna happen. So you don't change because you got money. I'm not trying to say all Pookie Ray are bad. Because you got street dudes that they doing what they do and they trying to get out and they're on that track. And that's why I say street dudes and Pookie and Ray Ray are two completely different niggas. Pookies and Ray Rays are unproductive Black men. That's as simple as that. Well, you giving them money ain't all of a sudden gonna make them productive.
Well, let me say this real quick. Ideally, in a perfect world, a perfect scenario, and it is a weird concept, giving Black men money, but
let me get into
whatever is missing or lacking that or should be restored or made whole in some kind of way. Okay, ideally, if you give that to a group of men, then ideally men, and we see, hell, we put up the stats on the other show to show what married men of a certain age make compared to non-married men of a certain age. When men get it together, they tend to take care of women. You take care of the men, then you take care of the men, you take care of the women and the children. You take care of the women, then you just taking care of the women. You're empowering them to be strong, independent, and not need the men. So
which is exactly the reason why the government
ideally in a perfect scenario with people who operate and function, I guess, like mammals, you would think that if you give to the men, then it'll trickle down to the women and the children, and that's how it typically works. I don't know exactly how that's going to work work with us. But I do want to get Mr. Lee's thoughts on that. But go ahead real quick, SKC. I mean, not SKC, but Silent. You want to jump in and we'll get Mr. Lee on that.
I mean, again, my argument isn't everybody or absolute. I'm just talking about the grand scheme. Yes, there's gonna be a ton of people gonna fuck off some money. We know that. I'm talking about, and the question I was gonna add, what about a nigga like Silent? You know my story. You know what I built from nothing. You're my Facebook friend. You see how I live.
You're an exception.
No, I'm not an exception.
Grinch is an exception.
Well, I'm telling you that I'm not. I live. There's plenty of dudes here that if only they had an opportunity. Okay, just like me. I'm not so arrogant that I think I'm the only one. I know plenty of dudes who are out there hustling, trying to scrape by. See other, like, Bernard, we're talking about those Caucasian people. See those poor white kids. See, they have what's called what's that 6 degrees of separation, right? Their mama may not have no money, but an uncle might have some money that they can get to get their business off the ground. Or they might have a grandfather or a great grandfather or a great uncle, right? They have a network of someone who has some money, because by and large, Caucasian people have a lot more money than we do. So somewhere in their family, if that white child has an idea, we need to get this white child's idea off the ground. He has the ability to pull resources. Most black kids don't have that. If they go to mama, grandmama, mama, ain't nobody got shit. They all been poor since fucking since Jim Crow. So I'm saying, just cause I don't try to get into this person. Yes, there's always going to be a bottom percent of people going to fuck it off, but there's going to be plenty of people who would, if they had access to resources, can make something happen. And respectfully, to be about black people, we sure do look at our fellow black people like ain't shit. Oh, you give them niggas money. Oh, like I try to think the best of our black people.
Yeah, well, that's the difference between
context. I know you're gonna find every nuance to argue with.
That's not
what I don't think the same. I think there's gonna be a lot of people who fuck off money, but there's gonna be a whole lot of people, just like when people got those stimuluses. We point to people who fucked off PPP loans or fucked off their stimulus loans because it's easy to use you just went to the grocery store and bought lobster with it. This the real world. Plenty of people were able to get caught up on bills, pay their light bills, get their rent. Plenty of people, like, we look at people almost through these hating ass glasses. Like we're so disconnected from how people actually live.
Hold on. I'm gonna let you go. Okay.
Hold on, Ed. Here's the thing with that, Silent. This conversation, the reason you came up, it was because when I was talking about what black people need to do, I was talking about home ownership. I was talking about, you own a home, like just a simple fact of owning a home, living your life, and you die, the insurance policy, and passing down a house to your children. Like that's where, when you talk about that white person, the 60s separation, they got an uncle, they got somebody in their family that got it. Yeah. All I'm saying is the solutions, like, that's how we get it. That's how we establish it. Hold on. I know I just get frustrated when we got to go all the way back into the history of shit that was taken in 1930 during Tulsa. And I'm like, shit.
Because you guys keep making it seem like it doesn't. You keep talking about where it's today, like that doesn't matter. That's how they got there.
That's how the initial L's were taken.
It's not initial. It still impacts them today.
It still impacts, but when we talk about how to win, we always got to go back and hear about how we lost.
No. That's not the context. No, that's not the context. Let me correct the context. Let me go back and correct the context. Again, I was speaking in that manner because I kept specifically saying we're saying it like there's something wrong with black people. That's why I brought up the history.
That's how you're perceiving it. That's not what I'm saying. That may be what SKC is saying.
Come on, man. Edward. I can have my own perceptions. We don't all have to see the world exactly the same, brother.
When Mr. Lee had his perception, you blew a gasket when he had his perception of what you said.
No, what I'm saying, no, that wasn't a perception. He completely took something I didn't say. That's different. I've listened very closely. I didn't say what he said I said, and he started the conversation from that. So I needed to correct him. I didn't say that there wasn't a problem. He started the conversation saying that I said there wasn't a problem. I didn't say that. So I wanted to stop it. It's like, again, I've said this on your show. If we say 2 + 2 is 6, everything after that you're going to follow is going to be wrong. So I'm saying, get my argument right. There's a lot of nuances to what I'm saying. Okay.
So silent.
Get
So
those
silent.
nuances right.
You said that money was one of the issues with black
Uh,
people. Do you believe that there are any issues that have to do with
Yes. Don't ask me.
behavior?
Yes, but don't ask me no loaded, dumb question like that. Like,
all right,
because what you
let's
guys are trying to do is extrapolate. You guys already have a certain thought process, the way you guys think.
You
I know the
keep
black
saying you
community.
guys. I was just up here basically
Well, I'm not
jumping
yeah,
calling
Ed,
you.
you hold on, wait, time out. Let me get it under control. Ed,
but
you just got on the panel and he's talking about shit that was going on before you got up
yeah,
here. So
yeah.
yeah, so but all right, listen, I want to push pause on where we at right now.
But
The question. All right, Ed. Go ahead,
uh,
Ed. Go ahead, and then we going. I do want SKC to ask this question that everybody went around on. I do
well,
want
as far
Mr.
as
Lee
what
to answer it, but
SKC
go
was
ahead, Ed.
saying too is another aspect to it is he saying that he are black men just gonna buy into the hyper consumerism that is black women and trick off the money, but because there's a difference between what Bernard is talking about, which is you taking care of a family and doing all of that, which is your legacy, your stuff. That's different. That's not helping women. Like, yeah, they benefit, but that's not really what that is, because that's within a contract. Versus what I think SKC is talking about, you correct me if I'm wrong, is basically buying into the hyper consumeristic tendencies that is females, that actually creates debt and creates nothing, that makes the money worthless in the first place to give it to. Because if you're going to give black people money just so it becomes a stimulus package for America as a whole, that's a good way to say, hey, we gave you reparations, and then the best corporations find a way to get you to trick it off based on buying niggas stuff. That is a very real possibility. And here's another thing too. This idea, like, because y'all know this is me, so I operate on an independent thought process, whether people agree or disagree. And so I was just on here talking about the really going hard in the paint for gentrification a couple of days ago with Bernard and even Christian Hutchison. But I deal in a program that actually helps folks, black, white, Hispanic, as far as getting their first home, even without without credit and without a down payment, 100% financing. And so I uniquely deal with the frustrations, getting cussed out because people don't want to do what they're supposed to be doing in order to be able to participate in that program. And I see Hispanic people and white people going in, getting out, making it happen. I'm not saying something is fundamentally wrong with black people. The problem is black people refuse to deal with the thing that actually is wrong. Money's not your problem. Culture is your problem. Because truth be told, the biggest reason why let's take black women out of it for a second.
You landed the plane, Ed.
Hold on. No, I know. Hold on. Black men cannot work with each other because of what I call the Highlander syndrome. Some people call it the Luciferian complex and other reasons. That is a gynocentric situation. He talks about the white, fuck the white man. What about the Latin man? What about all these non-whites? Yes, some of them get some government benefits, but what you see them Latin motherfuckers doing is they know how to create hierarchies. They know how to pull their money together. While black people are laughing, and he noticed in Dallas, while black people are laughing at him, talking about, oh, they all in the same car or they all in the house, motherfuckers are working. It's the old motherfuckers taking care of the kids, and the young motherfuckers, if they broke, is in McDonald's, and them bitches are not acting like they're not submissive. They play their role. That is a cultural problem. So yeah, so when you want to talk, so I hear what he's saying, but let's get off, because you're not helping black people doing the feel good. Ain't nothing wrong with black people, because you being fucked don't change because because somebody tells you you're not fundamentally fucked up. Also, the last thing as far as giving black folks money, I'm not against giving black folks money, but let's make no mistake. Let's stop acting like money is the biggest obstacle to black people doing shit. Black people as a group, so fuck that some motherfuckers, as a group, if you just I'm going to say this, I'm going to piss some people off. You give every black person $1 million in 5 years, it'll be gone. Maybe like 15% or 15% or 20% of black people will actually move into another class. 80% of them will find a way to get rid of that shit. Like they will come up with creative ways you have never thought about as how to spend it. And fuck the exceptions, because it's a cultural issue. And that is the one thing black people absolutely refuse to address. They go even black men, they go everywhere, over the river, through the woods, around the world, out to outer space, back out to the solar system, to not talk about culture. And culture, 10 seconds. Shout out to what's his name? Dr. Clark Anderson's 5 Floors. The one thing he did not address is culture, which is above economics. So economics means nothing if you don't fix the culture. Period. All that feel-good shit is exactly that.
All right, Ed, you got to stop landing the plane, and then right before the wheels touch the ground, you pull back up and get back up. 100,000.
Hey, nigga, I'm Maverick from fucking what's his name? You know the movie. Job Gun. I be doing
You landed the plane like 3 times and just kept pulling back up.
Fuck this real quick. I got another loop-de-loop to do.
Yeah, Perfect Storm says there's no renovating a structure that is built on a faulty foundation. Agreed. Car designer Chris in the building says Bernard is preaching right now. You're going back to what I said earlier. He said just get the basics down first. Shout out to car designer Chris again. Says preach, civilians are off limits. And shout out to Stuart D. Knight, author in the building. Shout out to you, appreciate it. Jay, a story to tell in the building, says for the collection plate. C Iron Attic in the building says support black male media. Salute to the panel. Let's have the conversation. Absolutely. C Gully in the building with a $5 super sticker, and Kenneth Williams with a $5 super sticker. Now, we finally going back to Mr. Lee Sage Talk. Y'all can definitely find him on Lapeef Network every Sunday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central Time. Make sure y'all go over there and check them out. But go ahead, you have the floor, you have the mic.
Appreciate it. Well, I like to just backtrack a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The question that was asked initially was by SKC was, what do I think we should gut? So I was laying out that question. So when I gave the analogy of the woman and her son in Bed-Stuy who caused her son to kill someone, that was some of the behaviors that we have. So when the brother made his argument wasn't dealing with the fact that what needs to be gutted. He took it as a personal affront, as though it was something being said about all black people. And that's not where I was going. But to move forward from that, I am not really of the idea of just giving black people a lot of money. I understand the conversation of reparations. And I do know that it's something that has to be rectified at some point. But one thing I know coming from business is that money is not something that you just get or receive. Money comes by way of a product or a service that you are providing to a community or the society that people find valuable. They pay you for that product or service, and then you make money from it. Whether it's an iPhone or whether it's something else, it's a product that people find value in and they pay for it. And I think today, we as black people always want to just go like money will solve the problem. If you ever made a lot of money in your life, you will see how many family members you would give money to. And the problems will just compound, and you would give them money. And as one problem go away, another problem returns. And the problem is their behavior has never changed. So the money is not going to solve a behavioral issue. The habits that you have is the habits you will have. If you don't change those habits, they will remain the same. The brothers who are being successful, who are that 10% man or that 20% high value guys that are moving, getting their game up and making more money, you put $1 million in their hands, they're going to do the right thing with it and build. The majority of our community in terms of men, they will just blow it because they don't have any real trained skills or ideas on what to do with a large sum of money. And even if they have a good idea, because they don't have any business savvy or experience or have people that can counsel them, they will probably blow it as well. I mean, the statistics on people who win the lotto and go broke after 5 years, those are real. It's not fake. And like I think someone said earlier, with regard to athletes and rappers too, who make a lot of money, tend to go broke by the time they retire. So the issue is not just the money that we need as a people. Yes, there's some infrastructural things about how we behave as a people we need to actually change about ourselves. And then when the money comes, then we will be able to invest that money and build and do something constructive with it to build our society and our community that will affect the larger society as well. But until then, whether it's $1 million, $100,000, or $1 billion, the majority of Black America will probably blow it.
Yeah, we're too hyper, like some of the specific cultural issues we have, and this is black men are not as bad as women with this, and that's just because the dynamics of black men are bad about this too. Is black people are too hyper consumer. We buy shit at retail and above retail price, damn near, in a way that we are literally a stimulus package. There's a reason why the small hat people said we were liquid money. Dr. Clark Anderson, if you want to deal with this outside of black people being fucked up, just go to Dr. Clark Anderson's Powernomics. He even said he couldn't give that away versus other groups would pay him for his like consulting on certain things. You can it's a lot of things, and people don't see it. Like, for instance, a lot of y'all don't even know. A lot of your mega churches, they really should be their own credit union. They aggregate money that way. It's a lot of things we do not hold the people accountable to. Fuck the politicians that we actually give money to. And because again, this goes back to what SKC is doing. Whenever women shout dudes down, it ain't enough dudes that get behind him. Even when you saw what happened with Ice Cube or stuff like that, when it's dudes that step up and say, hey, this is what we should do, even if those dudes got a receipt, being married to a black woman for X amount of years, not being known for cheating. He created the three, he's successful in his own right, actually created a 3B league, which actually hired, not only gave basketball players another outlet, all the infrastructure around that actually hires a lot of people, but black people in particular. Like, so he's like literally doing that. And then it's some of these motherfuckers' careers they owe to him, you know, but yet he gets thrown away. Even somebody like Don Peebles. Most black people don't know who the richest black people are. Like most black people don't know who Don Peebles is. Most black people don't know. And let me throw myself in there. I'm forgetting the name. I know who Robert Smith is, but there's another black dude that's a billionaire in tech. This like on right behind them in America, African Americans. We know all of the hip hop people. We know all of the sports folks. It's a culture, and I'm not trying to say black men are not out of it. This is one thing BGS is talking about us in this space, starting to talk more about policy, more about homeschooling, more about the schools for boys and girls being separate, because we know schools that boys go to, they tend to perform better. Shout out to Steve Perry and people like that that's done that work. Like, dudes like 50-50 cussy and 10 years doctrine. I'm not taking black men out of this. Black men have a real bad issue with working with each other because in our minds, we're always competing for a woman, even when a woman is not in the room. Now, that's not every black man, but you get what I'm saying. So we have our own issues. I'm not here to say, oh, it's just the women. But see, the problem is we get into this mode, and I understand what Silent's trying to say, but we get in this mode where we say black people. I don't know what y'all was saying, because I know what SKC, which you can be on sometimes, and I push back at SKC. Talk about black women are most racist, even though I acknowledge sometimes these black chicks do shit to make it hard to push back against that. But my point is that we need to be very brutally honest about what's going on, because if we don't, nothing's going to get fixed. And we're in an economic situation where ain't nobody playing with your ass. I don't understand why. So that feel good shit, black people ain't fundamentally fucked up. Well, if you get, as Glennon say, globally reset to the point where you fucking homeless, you needing the opportunity ain't gonna matter, because people gonna put themselves first before you. And black men be like the only men that don't want to do that. Like literally, I'm done at this. We're arguing giving reparations. I believe in reparations, but stop acting like reparations is just one election away. Like the reality is, in the next key, you honestly tell me we're gonna get reparations in the next 4 or 5 years. Now we're dealing with a very real economy with very real pandemics on pandemics. And so that ain't helping nobody. But telling your ass that you need to get your mind right about how you view money, how you view a budget, you interacting with people in a way that actually is conducive to both of you all benefiting. Yeah, that's some shit motherfuckers can learn to do right. Now, I'm done.
All right. Welcome. Dang, he said I'm done and he just dropped off. Did you mean to drop off?
Wow.
I don't even know
Well,
how much.
I didn't mean I clicked on the camera and I don't have a camera. I don't have a camera.
I'm done.
I was about to cash app you for that, Ed.
No, I clicked on the start cam and I don't got a camera, so it dropped me.
Oh man. All right. Welcome aboard, Trey. Go ahead. What you got on this?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Mr. Lee, SKC, Ed. Just a little slight pushback question for you, Mr. Lee. You just, we spoke before over on Other People. I came up for a bit, and I'm along the mindset of SKC on this. But when you stated earlier, you worked in Wall Street for 18 years. We know that's predominantly the white man over there doing that. So myself, I was a soldier for 20 years, led, thousands of, white troops, Hispanic, whatever you want to call it. Now, in your new black society, where you want to go, all the things that benefited us come from, basically rugged individualism, being, an American per se. Now, what will happen to the benefits that me and you were able to take advantage of playing the white man's game, as some would say, in this new society that you want to speak of, this separatist society?
Oh, gotta unmute, Mr. Lee, gotta unmute.
Sorry about that. Thanks. With regard to, you see, I think what some people confuse with capitalism is really the infrastructure in terms of the economy that drives America. And what capitalism says is that your ingenuity to be able to find a hole in the market of the society where something is lacking, if you are able to fill that gap and you could do it well, you can profit from that. Whereas in other countries, those opportunities are not there because the funding may not be available. And in some cases, even when you do, the government steps in to shut you down, and someone with more money would be leveraged to come in and take over and run with your idea. Whereas in America, in general, that doesn't happen. So those opportunities wouldn't go away. That's still part of the broader America. It doesn't mean that we would be isolated from doing business with broader America and other communities and overseas in other countries as well. What I'm talking about is the community, the culture by which we will live by. Is that clearer?
Whoa.
Wait, hold on. Wait, he's still here. Hold on.
Yeah.
Wait, Trey, are you?
Yeah.
Trey, say something.
Yeah, I'm here. I see myself there, but I don't see myself on screen.
Oh, okay. That's a new feature that I was playing with. But somebody's audio audio can be there. If your camera's not on, we can hear you, but we just can't see you. But
what do they call it when you've been the rapture?
Yeah, yeah.
But he's not quite there yet. Like, we ain't got him quite yet.
We can hear Ed. And can't see him. And
at least they got me and Ed. They didn't go after all the coons with this.
I'm about to bring you back, but hold on. Wait, go ahead.
Quick question to Sage Talk real quick. Do you are you talking about kind of like how the small hat people do it? Small hat people means Jews here. We just don't. Yeah. So like how they have a culture within the capitalistic system, and they have their own culture, like a culture within a culture.
Well, I was thinking about it either broader than that, like Rome within Italy.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I get it. But all right. So even in those cultures within the United States, let's take Hasidic Jews. Hasidic Jews don't have nothing to do with the Jews down around the Beltway in DC. The Jews down there, they doing their own thing. They rugged individualist thing. Those Hasidic Jews, they're just cultures, just ultra Jewish, if you want to call it that. Is that what you're talking about? Something like that?
No, actually, well, that is based on a religious structure. I didn't want to interject a religious structure because I know how conflicting that could be as a conversation for Black people. So I wanted to look at it more from a business structure. The religious part, the ethics and the morals will be weaved in later as such a project would be developed, if so. But what we need to really look at, I think, is how do we come together as a people? And we know that there are going to be many dissenters because there will be those who will disagree because they have never done anything in life but to disagree. So they're those.
Yes.
I'm not looking to deal with those who will be of dissent. If you're of a dissenting opinion, this conversation is not for you. I'm looking for people who say, you know what? I like that. Let's discuss that further. Let's unwrap that. Let's deconstruct it and see where we can go with this and build around it. And in that light, in that conversation, I'm not saying it wouldn't resemble something like what the Hasidims have in New York City, or would it resemble something that the East Indian have? Matter of fact, last week I saw a very good 10-minute video, a 15-minute video from Anton. And he was in, I don't remember what state, but I think it's a state where he originated from. And he was driving through a community where he once grew up or knew about and wanted to buy property. And he drove through that community for like 15 minutes. It's all Indians.
Yeah.
What used to be a Black community now is all Indians. They bought all the houses. They own every freaking thing there. The thing is why can't we do that?
Well,
the reason why, one second. Why we can't do that is because the minute one or two Black people with ideas will do that, here come the Negroes to come and tear it apart. Somebody gonna be driving the block, blasting their music at 150 decibels at 2:00 in the morning.
So can I respond to
Hold on, real quick.
Where those type of things would not be, and that's where the father or the man would have to sign off on that. This will not happen. And if I have a daughter or a son, they will conduct themselves in this manner to not do that. Because if they do, guess what? We'll buy you out and you got to go.
Yeah.
Really quick. If I was, when he's talking about how all those houses used to be Black, they became Indian and said we never do that. I kind of saw something like that. I didn't say we never
do that. I said, why can't we do that?
Well, why can't we do that? I saw something similar, but I don't think it was planned or orchestrated. It just so happened to happen. I've talked about this before when I bought my house in 2014. Like the neighborhood is kind of down some ways. Like, it was real nice neighborhood, nice houses. Used to be majority white people there, because my kids used to take my kids trick-or-treating in that area. So when we would go there, majority 90 to 95% of the houses were white. The last time I took my kids trick-or-treating, they've aged out of it now, but the last time I took them, I would say probably 70, definitely better than 50% of those houses were owned by Black people. So it is a thing that happens where, Black people start moving in the area, everybody else start moving out, then you end up having some little upper middle class Black neighborhood in a real nice area like that. I've seen that happen. It just wasn't organized in that type of way where they came together on ideological.
Well, that's some white flight. That's a little bit. It's like
if we have to implement it by inducing some white flight, I ain't got no problem. Well, with that.
Truth is,
I like to see good upper middle class,
and that's why the thing about.
But
that's why gentrification, understanding that matters, because that's not what's going on now. What's going on is the money's being vacuumed out as well. This is where you got people like they're like redrawing cities so they can pull money, so they don't have to have money pulled from the counties and stuff like that. Folks are they're getting better at doing that faster in certain areas. So it's not the same as it's going to be like that. Also, as far as to speak to what the brother was talking about, as far as the Indians, we had a thing, the area where they were kind of already in heavy, but it was a subdivision they was creating. They bought all the houses they bought all the houses before they even got built. Like they got in the because these developers be just trying to get, they can get the houses sold as they're building before they're building it. That's what they gonna do, especially if it's at the price that they're looking to get. So a lot of times they'll buy it like that, because a lot of people forget Indians control like 40%, if not a little bit more than that, of the motel industry in the United States, even though they're a small thing. Another thing people don't understand is Indians have an incredibly strong diaspora globally. So my point is, but going back to what he was saying, as far as going back to why you don't see that often, because Dr. Clark Anderson talked about stuff like that, and some of the issues. This comes back to some of the stuff I was saying before. We have this gynocentric matriarchal culture that black men. When I talk about the gynocracy, I am not just talking about black women. Black women can get away with what they get away with is because too many black men buy into that ideology, that religion. Whether they buy into it, and so they buy into this religion of defiance too, where if you doing something good, they're gonna want to fuck it up just because that's what they're on. That's because they want to do it because it's that crab in the barrel mentality. Because remember, Christian Hutchison was saying similar stuff. Remember when he was saying what he had to do to like get the property values of like areas that he was renting up? How, he wouldn't go into detail with it, but he would talk about how he had to, quote unquote, get the Negroes out of there. And he talks to, that could be a whole TV series of how he did that, because he never goes into detail of what that is. That, you have black folks that will fight that. Like, you see that in Atlanta today, where it's gotten so bad where even black folks are starting to turn on folks. But like, it's this idea of like lawlessness that you want to let go, because that's a way of being pro-black in the minds of, as Thomas Sowell would say, black redneck mentality folks. And my question to you, Sage, is this: isn't most of what you're talking about, can that be solved with black people just adhering to classism a lot more than what we do? Because I don't believe most black people believe in class. Even black folks that's got money, they don't believe in like a class hierarchy. Isn't what you talking about, couldn't that be like solved for the most part if black people just start adhering to class like other people normally do? Because that's what the Indians do. Their class matters. Elders matters. Go ahead.
Yeah, you got to unmute.
I did talk about that last week before last on my show, with regarding that black people, we need to create a class system, and that could be based on economic structure: merchant class, executive class, business class. If you're import export, if you're a tradesman, we need to really divide that up in terms of how we invest our wealth to buy up communities and buy up properties. The thing is how do we keep the dredge of our community from filtering in?
Okay, I'll answer that. Now,
sir, with all due respect, that's putting the lames at the top, and that's a non-starter for 85% to 90% of black people.
Wait. Hold on. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly.
How dare you create a culture where the lames would be at the top for their productivity? What the fuck
is what Mr. Lee just stated was the eloquent way of stating how do we keep those niggas over there?
Basically, but here, SKC, again, Mr. Lee, I do have pushback for you on what you said. Is that how can I put it? All right, so you said you don't want to have the conversation with guys that aren't on this. However, men like myself and SKC have found solutions in doing this in a more of a rugged, individualistic manner. Now. And you're about capital. And you're about capital.
What do you say?
He said
define rugged individualistic.
No. Basically, we do for ourselves, man. Kind of like SYSBM, stuff like that.
Got it.
Passport guys. We do for ourselves in our own families. We, if generational wealth is going to be created by anybody, it will be me. If I don't choose to create generational wealth, hey son, here's the way to go get it. I'm gonna spend all my money up. I'll leave y'all $10,000 each and do you. If I choose to do that, I choose to do that. Now, if you're saying you don't want to, have the convo with guys, who aren't speaking your message. Now, at the same time, you said, okay, I'm a capitalist. You're a capitalist.
No, that's
okay. I got you. So
I think you missed some fundamental building blocks of what he said.
Yeah.
Like in his
No, I'm gonna land the plane with
in his
Art.
black community that he was trying to build. He said he don't. I mean, it sounds very welcoming to SYS being the passport.
Yeah,
No,
I
no,
kind
no.
of feel, I kind of
Let
feel
me
like,
finish
hold
the
on, I
question.
kind of
Hold on,
feel
Ed.
like
Let
this
me
is
finish the
irrelevant.
question, Ed.
You're repeating
No,
it.
no, no,
Like,
no, I'm not. Ed, let me land the plane. I will land the plane, Ed. Now, my question is for you. Before Ed spoke last, you said something about not having the conversation with men that aren't on board like this. And I'm like, there's a reason why guys like myself and SKC want to have this conversation with you and basically debate against you is because we are winning. We have found the proven strategy that wins. All these things that you and Ed and Silent, who were up here before, it's not in our periphery. It's not even our lives. It's not even on our worlds.
I
We are
think
living
Mr.
on
Lee.
a.
Well, hold on, Mr.
No,
Lee has found the formula for winning too as an individual.
no, that's the
Like that's the
thing.
easy
all right, see,
part.
this
But
is,
no, here's the problem is that Mr. Lee is stating something. Yeah, we got to do this, do this, do this, do this for this community, and we're saying this. Screw that community. Do it this way.
yeah.
It works.
Okay, I need to jump
He's
in because,
also saying screw that community. He's just saying build another one.
yeah, like,
Yeah, and
see,
then what we're
don't
saying
know,
is
like,
don't
oh my
build a
God, we
community.
understand what you're saying. You're trying to protect your rugged individualism. We
Yeah,
get
yeah.
that.
And
You're
but my
libertarian. We
question is
get
for
that. So you're
Mr.
going
No, my
all the
question
way
is for
around.
Mr. Lee, Ed, not you. I know what you feel on this, Ed. We've had this discussion.
But I'm interpreting what he's saying too, like in a
I want to
completely
hear
different
Mr.
way.
Lee, bro.
All right, go ahead. All right, so just put it in the question, and we'll throw it to Mr.
All right.
Lee. Then we do got to get brother Xavier in this too.
All right, Mr. Lee. Yeah, I just prefaced it. What is wrong with having the conversation and actually looking at doing it the SKC? I won't even say me, the SKC way versus this whole community, build a whole new black community versus just going, hey, y'all young brothers, do like that dude SKC is doing. Do like I did on Wall Street. Do like that soldier did over there with the dog icon.
Well, what I would say with regard to that, and when I said initially, for those who don't see the bigger picture of what I was saying and a pushback because they don't think Black America has a problem, and part of what Bernard had talked about, for guys who always still want to go back 100 years and talk about the root of the problem and the effect that it's having today, I'm not looking for that conversation. There's a lot of people that are more smarter than me that can engage in that discussion. What I'm talking about is where we are now and how do we go forward. Now, with regard to you and SKC, you guys definitely, I haven't heard what you have to say overall. You're successful in your own right individually, and you're plowing ahead. I think as individuals, there are a lot of Black men who are doing well and are growing and continuing to do so. What I'm looking at is how can we turn that into a power block? How can we do something in mass, big, and as one? That takes a lot of Black men putting away their personal ego to look at something that is far greater, not just the individual success, but a success that can actually rival other communities in the United States and really become a challenge in a power base in America, both economically and politically. That's where I'm looking at it.
I'm already in that power base. I already
If
have
I-
it. Yeah,
All
that's
right.
what I'm like. Where is it?
If I could,
What are we-
interject
go ahead, SKC.
something,
My bad.
quick, Trey, and I just want to make this clear. I don't disagree with Mr. Lee. I'm not debating against anything like them. Like I put in the chat, if he were to put this venture up and there were other Black men that wanted to hold to those things, I would have no problem being a silent investor. I have no problem
Exactly.
with any of that. I have no problem with that. However, what Trey is stating, and just to clarify it a bit more, as
Sure.
of right now, I've already grafted myself into a system that is outside of quote unquote Black culture, that it works for me and my family and so forth. So I'm not going to abandon that over over such and such and such. It wouldn't make sense. I think one of the issues that Mr. Lee would come across would be not the business part, but getting people in line when it comes to the ethics part. Now, I would like to see how that would work, but that's the I think that's the big issue.
Let me ask you. I'm gonna ask you in a real quick way.
Bernard, your mic is silent.
Let's take a guy like
real quick, and I was just trying to jump in a second, throw it right back to you. SKC, I think the premise that he was starting out with, and shout out to Little Big Nate, Mr. Lee didn't word it this way, but the foundationally, it like-minded men in order to get in. That part, once that is understood, then you don't got to worry about Nuck and Boom Queesh and them riding
No.
with loud music.
It's not even on that, Bernard. So take for instance, to give you really quickly, let's say if Mr. Lee stated, okay, we're setting this up. He has the whole structure and so forth, and then he's signing on different black men and such. There is going to be a part where if a person like let's say an Alan Obi saw SKC's name on the list, he's gonna say, "Nah, I can't do business with that brother."
Okay, that's
he's not black, and one of us is gonna have to go.
But that's already been established.
They're gonna choose the Nigerian over you,
and that has nothing to do with Nook
Can y'all hear me? It's already established. He said it from the start. It's based off black men. It's black male patriarchy. He don't care what color the woman is. So if Alan Obi don't want to come in because you gonna bring Ling Ling with you, then Alan Obi is out. You're in.
Yeah, y'all are not listening, and I haven't been listening to this whole stream. Y'all are on some. I gotta protect this at all costs, and this is like a Trojan horse. It's so fuck me. Y'all gotta get off of that. No. Okay, hold on. Stop. We understand that. We get that. We're not remedial. Because that's all you keep saying, and you're freezing the conversation. Here's my thing, because here's why I'm gonna say that. Because the way I look at it, very simple, and I'm glad you answered that, Bernard, because that was the part I was asking to ask. I can bypass that now. It's like the mob. The mob has made men. The mob has associates. Now, it's not going to be a hierarchy necessarily like that, where if you're an associate, a main man can tell you what to do. Think of a main man as like a Mandalorian. Let's call y'all Mandalorians, meaning y'all operate as independent operators, and you all will be judged as such. So, like, let's say you're somebody, like, let's take a Christian Hudson. That's a good example. Somebody that is let's say he don't got no pro-black shit about him, but he's got economics, he's got his shit together, this. He can take an individual deal that folks want to do as a group that may make sense for him to deal with in that deal. No commitments to do all this other shit down the road, but in that individual deal, it's kind of like leasing a car versus owning one. It's a different commitment. There's room, and Sage, you can, correct me if this is not what you're saying. This is how I'm interpreting what you're saying. There are ways for people to do that because there's still value in a productive black man that has his shit together and it has its economics together, or that is productive. So nobody's trying to take your sovereignty. This is not something where you buy in, and if you sign you cut your palm of your hand and that's it. You only leave if you dead in a body. Like, nigga, everybody ain't on that. But at the same time, that's what I'm hearing. Now, on the flip side,
then ask me what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Because SKC just mentioned the Obie Alley thing, and the thing about it is, the only way Obie Allen could even try to make that move to anybody is if Obie Allen is providing overwhelming economics. If he's not, then he can't say that just off the ethics bullshit. Kevin Samuels used to talk about that the same way, how we need to bring in black men that deal with other races of women because they're still black and they will work with brothers, but they're not giving up who they are. And we need to stop expecting them to do so. Like, that's already been addressed even before he said. Hold on, last thing I'm gonna say. At the end of the day, if you believe that that's just a Trojan horse and you can't get past that, then don't do it. And then that is what that is.
What I would say with regard to something I think SKC hinted at, there would definitely be investors who would invest in the project, right? However, as an investor, there would be a disclosure that they would have to sign off on because, like, what's the guy? Elon Musk tried to do a takeover of Twitter. This would have to be a situation where no large investor would be able to come and overturn what we're building.
Communism,
So,
basically.
so those things would have to be in place legally to avoid that, even if you were just a silent investor. But when it comes to raising money, there's so many different type of ways to raise money. I'm not going to get into that conversation here, but you could do it from a private equity standpoint, and there are other ways you can do it as well.
SKC wasn't talking about just monetary though. He was talking about more like commitment and principle.
Well,
and
he was talking about his family. He's already got his situation structured with his family, but he said if he saw the profitability or the value of that idea, he would consider investing in it as a silent investor. So what I'm saying is that even as a silent investor, not him specifically, but others who may be far more wealthier than himself, they would not be able to come in and have such a Trump position that they can turn it later on and do an inside takeover, leverage buyout deal, things of that nature.
Okay, so Mr. Lee, this is where I was coming from with that. Like me and SKC differ slightly. I, as a capitalist, I'm coming in there like, okay, here's this community. All right, they need hair shops. They ain't letting no Korean people in there. All right, I'm coming with my hair shops. I'm coming with my cannabis dispensaries, all that. Because, and then I'm still going to live.
It's a town. It's a town. And if the business is legal within the United States, you can open up a business there too.
And I'm going to be over here with my Maria outside living far away in Snowflakeville, and I'm going to put my money into those industries because there's the opportunity.
One second. In that case, if you're not in the community, you can't have a business in the community and not be in the community. No,
okay, and this is where I differ from you because me, if I say, okay, Lee, I'm cool with you. If you, Alan, we'll just use Alan for instance. Alan ain't getting in here. He ain't American. He don't got enough American going back in him. I'm not letting him in based off of skin color and a big nose. Ain't happening. You got to be this much American in your blood to get in here. That's where I draw the line at that. I don't know if you know me or not. I'm American all day. I'm original American black all day. You know, I'm not that far off from you. But here's the thing. I just see it as a lost cause.
What I'm saying is that if you want to build a community, see, like today we have in our black community, we have Asian businesses, whether it's markets, stores of different type. We have so many different businesses in our communities that are owned by people who don't live there. And they take the wealth out of the community. Mm-hmm. And if you go back and look at what happened with Wall Street, Black Wall Street, they circulated their dollar within their community so much that the value became more than the actual dollar currency in the United States. Yeah. And white people from the surrounding area were borrowing money from them.
But that's the most
we
said we weren't going to go back to.
If you have other people who are just coming in there, opening business and extracting the money out, it defeats the process of building a strong black community.
Well, a black person.
All right. Well, we do gotta get to Brother Xavier before I have to shut this thing down. So go ahead, X. You have the floor. You got the mic. Thank you for your patience. Well, hold on, real quick. Sunday Time Round the Building says, let's not forget the economic sabotage, where these white businessmen will pay thugs to purposefully terrorize and drive down the property value in that area. Shout out to you. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. Mike and Vince Perkins in the building dropping $2 on it. Says support. Do appreciate you. Go ahead, X. You got the floor. You got the mic.
Peace, Brother Bernard. I see my brother Supreme up here, the Hurricane, Brother Trey, and of course, Brother Sage. I've been listening briefly. And, you know, in the title, it says the impossibility of saving the community. To use the word saving would be an indication that something is inherently wrong. I think we can agree with that because lifeguards don't have to save Olympic swimmers. They save people who are drowning. But that being said, I think the bigger problem isn't so much of getting like-minded people together or getting people who want to invest or believe in this project. What I believe the bigger problem is convincing many black people that something is wrong in the first place. because we have a contingent of black people who don't think anything is wrong with black people. That black people don't need to be retrained or revamped
Repeat that
or
one more time,
restructured.
X.
No, there's a contingent of us who believe nothing is wrong with black people. It's all other stuff. The world needs to change. The country needs to change. The views of black people need to change. There's nothing wrong with black people. The crime, the killing, the illegitimate kids, the neighborhoods that look like smoldering rocks of places. There's absolutely nothing wrong with any of this. So I think the greater problem is not just, getting people to invest and getting people to come on board and getting people to come together and join the ride on the SS Kumbaya of black folks. I just don't think that's the problem. I think your bigger problem is getting a large enough number of people to understand that there is something wrong. You must start there.
Well, I will say this. I don't think you need to start there because the Black Manosphere is a place where we all know that there is something wrong. And because my channel speaks directly to black men, women are welcome, but I speak to black men directly, and I try to come up with how do we move forward with solid solutions. The key is whether or not any individual black man, because the men in this space already know that there's a problem. How to go about solving it is the big dilemma. If they see value in a particular idea that would work. The key obviously would be, one of the things that work well in America is marketing. And it's going to be how you sell it. How you sell the idea is going to convince the people that this is a worthwhile venture. And those who want to come on board, they will find out the details and the fine print. That's where you're going to get what you need to be, who you need to be as a man to be a part of this. And many men won't. They will either voluntarily deselect themselves, or the situation will be where, you know what, you're not ready right now. We can't deal with you. Maybe in 5 years, you can come back. So, it will be both ways. The corporation might reject you, or you might automatically say, this is not for me. Like SKC and the other brother, where they already have their path that is working for them. That's cool. I'm not saying that this idea is the only idea. I'm not saying that there are not other good ideas that are out there. I'm saying that if we're looking to do something from a community standpoint, there's enough land in the United States and there's enough black men in the United States who, if we wanted to, and if we saw the idea and the vision that was possible, that we could make steps to build something greater than ever had been built in America yet.
We're gonna let that one pretty much end it. We're gonna wrap it up on that. We at the 3-hour mark. That was a good moment to end on. That's a good moment to end on. It was a very positive statement, and I don't want y'all to mess it up with none of y'all negativity. We're gonna end on a positive note. right when he said that, let me mute Trey and SKC. They're gonna try to mess it up. They're gonna try to mess it up on the way out the door.
Nah, man. I applaud his thinking on the matter. I it's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm with it.
Investment
opportunities, man.
I do too. It's just that I believe that when it comes to a lot of this stuff, and I don't want to hold you up too long, Brother Bernard, but I believe when it comes to a lot of this stuff, I don't want to say that particular ship has sailed, but some of those ships have sailed. And not only have they sailed into the middle of the ocean and they have sunk to the bottom.
I'll say this. You know how many ships sank that were slave ships to come to America?
0. It never happened. There you go.
What's the answer?
I said 0.
No, I'm talking to Mr. Lee.
Say again? There were several.
I said 0. It never happened. We were already here.
Oh, it did happen. Ships sank.
We're not having that show.
That's another conversation.
We're not having that show. But all right.
I just say this, Bernard. If you want to make it happen, Mr. Lee, and you want my help, I'll do this. I will say, men, you got to come by yourselves, and I will show you how to import the Marias and Ling Lings and Western European Beckys in there to make your society thrive. Because somebody shouldn't be allowed in there, and I'm not saying who.
Well, something like this would be a major undertaking. It would take years to plan and lay out. That would take time. This is just something I've been working on and I've been thinking about because I know some people with regard to funding and things of that nature. So I've been looking at how can we move as a unit and how can Black men do something constructive to build. If you're not looking to go overseas and just totally separate yourself from America, and you want to stay in America and you want to build, but you're trying to build and there's leaks everywhere. Every time you put up a wall, another wall drops because there's a leak on that side, meaning the fuckery that goes on in our community. It's going to be hard to build at the same time with all the different issues going on. So you really need to start from scratch somewhere. I chose a large landmass because with a large landmass, you can expand out. It doesn't mean you build on everything, but you start somewhere and then you open it up. And as that situation whenever you build something, first of all, there are always going to be unforeseen things that you did not plan for that's going to come up. But if you start at the right scale, you can fix it and then go forward and scale up as you expand out. And by the time you get to phase 3 or 4 and 5, a lot of the issues that you found in phase 1 and 2 have been resolved. And then you can really plan and do what you need to do. And I just wanted to throw that out there as an idea that is a possibility. But if it is a real possibility, it's going to take men who are not so egotistical. I'm not an egotistical man. I'm very confident in my skills and my abilities. I worked 100% commission on Wall Street for 18 years. I never got a check that my boss had to write me. Everything I got, I made my own money. I made $100,000 a month for damn near 10 years. And it takes intelligence and skill to be able to not work a 40-hour job and go get a check and expect someone to hand you some money. Nobody never gave me anything. I work for my money. I know my skills, I know my abilities, and I know what can be done.
Yeah, and I just did that math on the calculator. $100,000 a month.
Well, let me break that down for you
years.
so you understand. 100
Yeah,
grand a month commission, 50% go to the firm, 50% come to you. My tax bracket was around 51 to 53%. You can do the math from there.
Yeah, okay. I got, okay. Okay, everything I got, I'm just going to divide by 2. All right, cool. All right, awesome. Anyway, all right. All right, so there's definitely good show. You definitely put some good, insightful ideas on the table. Appreciate you coming on through. Y'all make sure y'all go check them out on Sundays on the Lapeef Network, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central Time. And with that, that is Central Time, right? That's she got. Is that right down there?
Yeah, 3 to 6 Central Time, correct.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah. Make sure you go check them out over there. Very insightful, brother. But with that said, I'd like to thank everybody who supported the stream in any way, shape, or form. As you like, share, subscribe, watched in indifference, hit the super chat, whatever you did to support the stream. I appreciate you. And we are out of here. Peace. We gone.